financial situation, and you said you had things that you couldn't share on Facebook.
Okay. On what situation? The financial situation and the virus and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I can probably share a bit.
that would be fantastic.
Okay. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm part of a group called Crypto Viewing. There's four or five remote viewers there, but it's mainly myself, Edward Riordan, and Dick Algar. And we're essentially funded by patrons. So we have a user base of thousands of patrons that pay a monthly amount to access remote viewing information that we give them on future events and on mysteries targets occasionally, and mainly looking at markets and cryptocurrencies. And as part of this project, in June last year, the tasker of the group, I mean, Crypto Viewing, we have probably about 10 staff there now, 3 or 4 of us remote viewing. Then we have backup staff and admin, we have video editors. So it's, over the last 2 years, it's grown quite significantly to be quite a small team of full-time people. But anyway, so June of last year, the person that gives us most of our targets gave us a blind target to try to determine when the dollar would devalue, what would happen around that, and would it mark cryptocurrencies moving into the market. Now let me see if I can find my screens here so I can share you some of this. I'll see if I can share you some of my information on this.
Thank you.
So, all right, I'm gonna bear with me a second while I get this up on the screen. So this is a blind remote viewing session. I'll share this now so you can see it. This is a blind remote viewing session. So as I said, the target was in the future, would the dollar devalue? What would lead to it devaluing, and would cryptocurrencies take its place, kind of thing. So this is a blind remote viewing session I did on it, and right off the bat here, I'm talking about peaks and spikes and big movements, lots of energy movement, and I knew it was right at the bottom here. It said future, so I knew it was a future target that I was looking at. And then more ideograms here show movement, energy, lots of fluctuations and a drop, then a feeling of a bottom and something would flatline. And I felt I was looking at the markets at this point, even though, you know, as a remote viewer, you're not meant to know this kind of thing. Bear with me a sec. I'm just going to open up the waiting room and admit some more people. Okay, there they are. Hi guys, it just answered. I'm just going through a remote viewing session here, so bear with us a second. So on this page here, it's still looking at the markets, and I've got an ideogram here, and it shows lots of jagged movements and then a flat line. I felt like, you know, the markets go flat, they're dead, they've stopped, and everyone's demoralized. And I had a feeling like death, a low point, and a feeling of an archaic momentum that crashes and stops. So then nothing, so it's completely flat market there. And then I tried to describe this in a bit more detail, with a more detailed sketch. So that I can see at the top there's a movement forwards in this direction, and I felt that people were happy at one point where the yay is, then it drops and they're going shit, and then they're going yay again as it goes up, and then it drops down, goes up a little bit, then flat lines, and you know they're all distressed and they say fuck at that stage. And I say there would be a medium rise, and then a solid drop, then a recovery which is short-lived, then a massive re-drop, and then it's going to be flat for a long period. And then more details there. I just say there's going to be a fall. There's going to be a time of chaos of problems in the news and media. There's going to be a conflict and people are going to be scared. This feels like a major situation that affects the target in a very solid negative way. It's chaotic at first with some fight back and recovery, but in the end it feels dead and it's going to be a traumatic time. And here I tried to draw a timeline. So I asked why, and they say there's lots of anger, distress, fighting, and I had an AOL of a war here. Now in hindsight, 6 to 8 months later, I think it was, you know, like the war on the virus kind of thing. So I had a feeling of a generally negative, conflicted time caused by a surprise event, which will catch many by surprise, and this is in the future. Now I did a timeline here. You can see a timeline at the bottom, and it says now at the left-hand side. And I did this target in mid-June. So the now point there would have been June, and I said that the major point would have been early in 2020, going all the way to 2023. And I got a note at the bottom that says "feels like a war zone." So that was one of the sessions I did on this, and then I also did another timeline. And here's another timeline I did for it. So there's the now again, which is June, and I felt like it was going to really start in roughly 5 months after June. So what would that be? June, July, August, September, October, November. That would have been November when, you know, we really did start hearing about the virus. I then said the peak of it would be right about 9 months after that. So, you know, we're talking August, September of this year. But I felt that the effects for the market and the economy are going to be rippling way, way, way into something like 24 to 30 months into the future. So that's, yeah, so that's some of the stuff we did. And as crypto viewing, we did quite a few targets on this kind of thing because the task group couldn't understand what was going on. And, you know, we had this data coming in, and for those of you who came here late, this is a remote viewing session I did as part of the crypto viewing project in June of 2019, and the target was to look at the demise of the dollar and what would happen around that, and if cryptos would start to take its place. And so myself, Dick, and Edward all had very similar data. But it wasn't just this. We did 4 or 5 different targets, and we kept getting this very strange kind of apocalyptic type data. But we didn't know what, you know, we didn't exactly know what it was to do with, and we didn't know what to do with it. So we didn't. I'm not sure if we put a lot of it out there at the time. I think some of the patrons got to see some of it. We held quite a bit of it back, and we still have held some of it back because it's a bit too
Traumatizing.
yeah, and we don't want to, you know, we're trying not to scare people. We're trying to inform people as best as possible, but we're trying not to scare them too much. I still think there's a, you know, I can be honest with you guys, I still think there's a good few months of really traumatic time coming. It could go quite bad, or it could iron out a little bit, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens on it. But yeah, it was interesting. We got this data, you know, as I said, early last year, and more recently, about 4 months ago, we were given a target, and it was to look at the I think it's May Day parade in America. Is it in New York that has that, or somewhere?
I think we have an Easter parade. We have a St. Patrick's Day parade.
It was a May Day parade somewhere in America. I can't remember where it was. We were tasked to look at that, and this was about 4 or 5 months ago. And all 3 of us as remote viewers, none of us had any parade information. This is before, you know, the coronavirus started causing all the lockdown. And none of us had any of this. None of us had any parade information whatsoever. We all had completely off target. So we were sat there with the task and we're going, well, we don't understand, because, you know, you passed this, but we don't see a parade happen. We have no parade data. And as I said, this was before Corona started taking off really bad, before all the lockdowns. We still got, you know, we're in April now, so we still got just over a month to go to see if the parade will actually happen or not. But our data from 3-4 months ago, you know, we're saying that it, you know, it's not going to happen. It wasn't going to go ahead. So we have all this data, but it's hard sharing a lot of it, because, you know, some of it, even stuff from back last year, we knew the markets were going to crash and the dollar was going to devalue, and you can see from my timeline, we knew when it was going to happen, but we didn't know what was going to cause it. Maybe we should have gone back and re-looked at that as separate targets, but, you know, there's only so many targets as a small group of people that we can do at any time, really. So that's pretty much it on
Very helpful
on that at the moment. As I said, there's a lot of stuff I can't share because, you know, we have people paying for the information, so I can't give it all away to everyone.
I know. I'm wondering how much it costs to join that group. Not the RV, the other side. I know I can't.
Anyone can become one of the patrons. I don't know what to be honest, I don't know what the scale is. It's a bit like,
I'm sure it's out of reach for me, Daz.
Yeah, it's like Kickstarter stuff, so it's on different levels. You pay, you know, the more you pay, the more access to information they give everyone, I'm afraid. I try to give as much away as I can for free, but at the same time, the only thing that's keeping me in paying my mortgage and paying for me to eat at the moment is these people that are supporting us through Patreon as well. So yeah, so that's it on the virus stuff. I did do other stuff on the virus stuff. I posted that though. I've posted my whole session on the virus and how it where it came from and how it developed and what it looks like. And we did that, I think, in November. I think I did a session on that. But I posted that on the on the Facebook group where you probably got these links. So if you look back through the threads on that, there's my whole remote viewing session on the coronavirus on there and where I think it comes from. And Dick and Edward as well, they both were at the same target blindly with me, and all three of us had that the virus was of a man-made construction, and it looks like it leaked or got out from some kind of laboratories. But we'll have to we're gonna have to wait way into the future to see if we can actually get proper feedback on that once all the once all the rumors and all the conspiracy theories have died away and we really know what's happened here.
Right. Thank you.
I'm just going to add a few more people in again that have been waiting. Hi guys, nice to see you all. So that's it on the virus stuff at the moment. As I said, I got lots of data that's kind of indicating there's a lot more bad stuff to come. We'll have to wait and see on that one really. Like all remote viewing, it's only good once you get feedback to tell you how accurate you are on that. So has anyone got any questions, or do you want to just go into looking at some alien type stuff, or do you want to discuss some alien stuff? Have you guys got anything you want to share at all, alien wise, on remote viewing and that?
It does, yeah.
I guess I'd just like to ask, like, how's everyone doing? Like, how's your mood? Where you are. It's actually been a pretty good week for me, considering, staying indoors.
I can give a perspective from the UK. I'm just approaching my second week of lockdown at the moment. By Monday it'll be 2 solid weeks. It's kind of hard. I can go out for an hour a day for a little bit of exercise and maybe if I need some shopping, but that's pretty much it. There's the only shops that are open in my town in Bath here, but I'm assuming the whole UK is pretty much food shops and pharmacies. Everything, clothes shops and everything else is just everything's closed. So there are no people on the streets. The people you do meet on the streets, because we have this social distancing, everyone gives each other a dodgy look, and you're all working out who's going to move to the left or the right, to not touch or go anywhere near each other. So it's a bit of a weird situation. But that's pretty much it at the moment. Everyone's just in home, trying to be safe, worried about what's coming. I mean, I don't know if you guys seen news, but in the UK here, we're at around about nearly 700 people a day dying from it at the moment. We haven't hit the peak yet. We're expecting to hit the peak in a week and a half time. So that's pretty much it. Everyone's scared. Everyone's just trying to do their best at the moment. How about you guys? Anyone else locked down or anything?
Yeah, well, I'm in Central California, and they've just kind of changed the situation at the stores here that only 2 people can go in at a time. If you do want to go to the store at all. But we've been at shelter in place for a while. So, but I am a doctor, so, they have a different feeling about the risks associated with if you're a doctor or not. So, and I'm also on the council for the state of California, so I'm still active doing things. A lot of what I do is over the internet still, but for a while I thought I was going to have to actually do a grand rounds for my local hospital. Thankfully, they canceled it like the afternoon before.
Yeah.
So
It's definitely an interesting and scary time, because you know I do a lot of photography as well, or used to do a lot of photography, especially street photography. But for the last 3 weeks, I haven't been able to do any of that, so it's a bit, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one.
mhm.
Okay, so some of you guys weren't here earlier, and I told the people that were here just literally a few minutes before this meeting, I put some new data online, and it's on my YouTube channel. It's on my remote view website as well. It's the entire raw remote viewing sessions I did on whiteboard for Courtney Brown and the Farsight Institute, looking at Area 51 a couple of years ago. And it's the raw video files in their entirety, and it's also my raw paper sessions as well. I think there's probably like, I don't know how many of them, 5 or 6 of those as well. And we always do the paper session, or when I used to work for Courtney, we always did the paper sessions before we moved to video. So they're up there as well, so people can download those and have a look at those. I mean, what I can do, okay, I can't minimize this a second. Let me see if I can move this to one side a second. I can open it up here, and I can show you some of it if you want right now. I'll quickly run through some of my paper sessions here. Let me share the screen here. Let's try to get this a bit smaller. So yeah, it was a target I did in 2017 for the Farsight Institute. And this is just going to be a quick overview of the paper sessions. And as I said, they're up there, so you can download them and look at them yourself afterwards. But I'll just quickly run through them here with you. All the information, the only information I had on this target, like every target with Farsight, is I just had the number target 16 on this, and we essentially just went for targets like 1 to 16. And I think I ended up working at the 23 for Courtney. So I always just used, you know, target 16, and the next one would be target 17, and so on. So you know, on this page one there, it's just like it's basically an ideogram for land there and all the details, and then you knew straight off the bat that it was a rugged landscape. Another ideogram there, and then you know, it's just essentially a man-made structure within that landscape. And then more detailed on it showed that it was stepped above and below ground there. And I did some stage 2 stuff, so this is just sounds, textures, all that kind of stuff. And I knew it was sunny and bright, and I knew I was in a desert location. Felt beautiful, but unfinished. Then moving into stage 3 with sketches. So I had drawn some structures here. Felt that they were layered at the bottom there, repetitive layers to the structures. Trying to draw more structures from different angles here. And interesting, straight off the bat here, I had an AOL that this was all camouflaged, which, you know, Area 51 is definitely camouflaged. More structure information here. Give more structure information. What's this talking about here? Yeah, more structure information, but you know, at the bottom here, there's a great sentence, yeah, a hint of something secretive and hidden. So this is, you know, this is only the very basic first information, kind of just touching the target really. More structural type stuff here. Feels claustrophobic inside. Very angular and linear. What's this? Talking about the structure again. So it's all really basic at first. And then I had the AOL at the end of it, this first session, that I was in a test site. So I did a second remote viewing session on it. And the second remote viewing session, what's it start off with here? Just land. More land here, and as you can see, it's very cragged and going downwards there. Feels like an organized space around a hub. So now I start drawing the structural space here. As you can see, it looks like there's a central column with layers coming off of it. It's all downwards, in a downwards area. Stage 2 stuff here with good AO there, caving. It felt like it was underground, you know, caves were prevalent there. Mix of old and new. Then stage 3, I started trying to draw the structures. So there were some above ground, and then they moved down below ground as well. And I had an AOL of an anthill or a mine. Felt that there were 10 levels below ground. And then there were secrets there, and they were stored and hidden, blah, 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 artificial. I'm going to run through this a bit faster now because there's quite a lot of these. This was an interesting part, and it's really good on, if you guys go and watch the video, this is really interesting. Felt that there was something contained in a container, and it ended up feeling or looking like some kind of metallic artificial intelligence type thing, you know, so it's a sentient kind of being, artificial intelligence kind of in a sphere that was being locked away in some kind of room or something. Yeah, very technical stuff. Let me see, I'm going to skip a lot of this. So there's me trying to draw this metallic kind of sentient type being thing. I'm going to skip through this because you can have a look at this. So, you know, this is me trying to draw the structural layers of the target, the Area 51 target. Trying to look at it from above, and then a side view of it down there as well. Lots on the structure there. Lots on, and this is where I go into detail on what they're doing on each of the levels. So there's a level where they're doing biology, a level where they're doing virology, a level when they're looking at energy, one when they're looking at weaponry. Just moving around the structure to see what I could find here. And then I start seeing these typical UFO-shaped craft within one of the layers of this vicinity. So I start looking at this craft and how that works and trying to draw these craft. A bit more detail about how old they're. Is there any more? That's pretty much it on that. And then after all that, that's the paper sessions. And after all that, I just move straight into whiteboard and do the stuff on whiteboard. But all this is on, as I said, all this is on video. I've just posted it on the Facebook page, and it's on my website, and it's on the YouTube channel, so you can have a look at that. It is part of what Courtney released 2 years ago. But as I said, Courtney only released a very small segment of the video, and this is all the raw files. And I'll probably be putting more out as well on probably every couple of weeks. So the next one I might do is the raw footage and the raw files from when we looked at Roswell. And then after that, I might put out the raw stuff when we looked at the Phoenix lights. And I'll go through all the RVs, and I'll try to put as much raw stuff out there that I can for people.
Hey, Daz.
Yeah.
The link you put on your personal Facebook page does not work.
You probably need to double click it or something. It's we're having a bit of hiccups here with stuff and internet at the moment in the UK. Yeah.
It works for me.
Yeah.
I see when you type in Area 51, it does take you to other places.
Yeah.
Hi, Daz.
Yeah.
Quick question. So I remember watching the Area 51 Farsight video, and I think was it Aziz or was it Dick? But at some point they were getting disconnected by a reptilian or alien or whoever it was, and then he kept on reconnecting and going back in. But I remember, this is going more into remote viewing protocol, that on one of the interviews, Courtney was saying he uses another protocol with another ET race where he remote views through them. Now, I don't know what all that was about. It was the Farsight Eridani protocol or something. And you can see it in one of the videos with the girls. He says they get blocked, and they said, right, we're going to use this protocol, and then they can get back on target. Do you know what he's doing there, what that is? Or
I don't, I'm afraid. And I also don't subscribe to any of that, any of his theories on any of that as well. So I can't really say what he's doing, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I found that really weird, because he was getting blocked. Then they used this protocol, and then they're back on the signal. I was like, what form of remote viewing is that? And he was very coy and quiet about it. But there's an interview with Kerry Cassidy, and then she managed to coax him, and he's saying he's remote viewing through a third party to get past that blockage or whatever it was.
Yeah. He says that a lot, and
yeah,
you know, I respect Courtney, and we've done some great work together. But we have conflicts over some of his belief systems and what he says and does and stuff. And yeah, I mean, on the Area 51, I did see some alien type things there, with the craft and the technology and stuff, but I didn't see any, not that I remember. I'll have to go back for the video myself. I don't remember seeing anything alive and interacting. I felt that it was more a human facility that was dissecting and experimenting with, not existing living aliens there. And I definitely didn't see anything reptilian, but just because I didn't see it doesn't mean it wasn't there or anything. I just can't validate anything that I know nothing about, and I didn't see any of that. And the protocols that Courtney used, I didn't feel blocked in any way, but that's the thing with remote viewing. You see, you bring into it your own rituals and stuff. It's a bit like black magic and witchcraft and stuff like that. If you believe a lot of that kind of stuff's going to affect you, or if you truly believe that if you have a coffee while remote viewing, you won't be able to remote view, then it will affect your remote viewing in that way.
Right.
We're very ritualistic human beings, and I'm a bit of a no nonsense kind of way of going about it.
Cool.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dick, Dick Elgeyer, when he viewed that, he also picked up on that that entity, and then he also felt that at the bottom of the Area 51 that there was a maglev train, and it went into all sorts of different directions. What I'm wondering, Daz's opinion is, do you believe, I guess without offending your cohorts, are they building castles, or are they just picking up on other aspects of the target that you didn't pick up on?
It's hard. I mean, a lot of the stuff at Area 51 we can't validate. There are some whistleblowers that have drawn and described some things that can be validated, and there have been some people that have claimed that there are these train systems that link these military bases. So that could be possible. I didn't see any of that. But what tends to happen when you get a group of people looking at a target, especially a group that works together over a period of time and years, and we do this in crypto viewing quite a lot, is we don't know how it does. There seems to be this some kind of weird division of labor that happens, that you tend to get your individual aspects with very little crossover elements. And I don't know what the mechanism is or how it is that someone says, okay, Daz, you're going to look at this part, you're going to look at this part, and someone else can look at this part. It just seems, it's very strange. It just seems to be when you have a team working a target, there seems to be this natural division of labor where you get minimum crossover, and you're all looking at different aspects. So Dick, for some reason or another, may have been drawn to that kind of technology more than me. So I can't prove it didn't exist, but I didn't see it in any of my RV, whereas they didn't see some of my stuff in theirs either. So it's a hard one.
Sure.
Yeah. Any more questions on the Area 51 stuff?
Yeah, actually, Daz, you were saying that there was this AI sort of entity sphere. Did you have any emotional response to it? Did it make you feel fearful or apprehensive to behold it?
That's a good question. I remember at the time thinking, wow. I think I'd probably express it better on video, because bearing in mind it's 2 years ago, so I'm trying to do all this from memory in amongst hundreds of other remote viewing sessions. But I do remember thinking this. They didn't even know. I don't think they even know what they had there. Maybe they did. I don't know. It felt like they didn't know what they had, and how powerful what this AI could be. But it's not like I've seen AIs as we build them and how we use them, artificial intelligences. But this felt different. It was essentially a live, living being, although one that was artificially created, and it had this huge amounts of capability and power around it. But it felt you know, it was contained, and yeah, contained within a almost held prisoner. But I don't think they realised what they, or it felt like they didn't realise what they actually had there, and what it could do. But yeah, I had great feelings of wowness about it, because you know, in our technological space, we've only just started using very basic AI to change someone's picture on an iPhone. You know, that's
Right.
as far as we've got in commercial uses. It was great stuff. Any questions on Area 51 or anything?
So there were no living entities there,
I don't want to say.
or you didn't feel any. Rather, is that more like more?
Yeah, bearing in mind I'm going on memory here, I don't remember seeing any live ones, but they had parts in the labs, in the areas that they were doing like the different research, like when they were looking at weapons and when they were looking at virus, because they were actually looking at virology. So they were actually looking at using some of the skin and blood and tissue samples, and they were looking at ways of maybe weaponizing, you know, the actual kind of chemical biological makeup of these these things in some way, which was quite interesting. You've got to bear in mind as well, you know, as a remote viewer, I'm not an expert on this kind of stuff. So when I see stuff like that, I'm trying to describe what I'm seeing in a you know, with like things like virology and stuff in a completely untrained, you know, mind. It's very hard for me to comprehend what I'm seeing there at times.
Wow.
But yeah, they were doing some
Heavy
strange
things.
stuff there. Any more questions on the Area 51, or has anyone got anything they want to share?
Yes, some of your structures that you drew in your session. I once did a session on Europa for Fabian Rush, and it was one of my first sessions, and I saw some structures there concerning mining, what felt like mining. But what I drew is actually, it looks a lot of some of those structures that fan out with the different levels.
Yeah.
And I also didn't feel like, I felt like technology. And it's just the similarities to me striking, that there was just this outside, I had like a stage 7, and I was like outside observing, and it's this huge entity. It's like as high as a mountain, about 3-4 meters high, and me keeping my distance, being scared it will sense me, and basically ending the session. And also, it wasn't very conscious, that entity. It was rather like, so it's interesting to me that things operating below in the structure, similar to what you drew, also did not feel alive.
Yeah,
more robotic or controlled.
There seems to be a lot of information out there. I mean, you know, we're not the only ones that have looked at Area 51 as remote viewers, and you know, we all, I guess, I don't know if you've heard, but Pat Price in his early days at, I think, SRI, looked and he recorded seeing, I think it was like 12 alien stroke military type facilities on the planet and stuff, using remote viewing. You know, there are whistleblowers that have come out and described and drawn all this kind of stuff. You know, the very first person, of course, that blew Area 51 wide open was Bob Lazar, when he came out in 1989, and he took some of his friends to the desert and said, look, you know, this is where they test fly the UFOs, and they took video of it all. So, you know, there is quite a lot of evidence out there to confirm some of the remote viewing data, but not to confirm quite a lot of the alleged alien stuff and bits and pieces that are going on. So we can confirm about half of it, I would say.
So, sorry, Daz. Do you know in your Roswell session you also drew out around structure? Was it Area 51 as well, or was that something else?
Say that again, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, in your Roswell session, I think you was looking at the origin of the saucer and you do base like the sessions, or am I getting mixed up?
Yeah, you're still cutting out. I can't hear you very well.
Oh, okay, don't worry. Don't worry.
Ask it in the chat.
Yeah, if you could type it in the chat or something. What I can also share with you is, let me see if I can get this up on screen a sec. Because I've been interested in the alien question and UFO research many years before I even got into remote viewing. So I did quite a lot of UFO research, alien abductee research, and spoke to quite a few alleged alien abductees, and read a lot of material for many years before I got into remote viewing.
Have you seen one, Daz?
Hello?
Have you seen one?
That's what I'm just gonna describe something. Not in physical in real life, I would say, but not in remote, only once in remote viewing, maybe. But mainly I've seen stuff within what I call channeled and normal kind of classical psychic work. And then let me share my screen here a sec. So I've put this online as well. So in the many years I've been doing this, some of the stuff I've seen in the channel stuff now, because I'm an artist, I drew, and here's some of the sketches that I drew of the alien things that I've seen in channel stuff. This one I actually saw within a remote viewing session. He was quite aggressive. He moved really fast and aggressively. But some of these are just normal other stuff that I've seen over the years. And I drew. These were from about 10, 15 years ago, these drawings. And that's just some of the different, races that seemed were working together. And some doctor type ones with bits and pieces. The classical Whitley Strieber grey alien one. Yeah, so that's just some sketches that I did in the past. But hardly any of that's through remote viewing. Most of it's through other classical stuff, and maybe just my research as well. Reading so much and speaking to so many people.
Excellent artwork.
Yeah. Amazing artwork. Wow. Are these? May I ask? Are these different species of
It
grays?
seems to be, and the abductees and everyone seemed to report different species, like the typical small 4 to 5 foot grey alien seems to be some kind of autonomous robot-y type, biological robot-y type device alien that seems to be more in control at the larger ones, which sometimes look like tall greys, but slightly more human. And in some cases, a lot of people report these what they call Nordic-looking people, so human-looking people, very tall, good-looking, blonde hair, blue eyes, that kind of thing. But there seem to be lots of different hybrid things, and this is the thing with the subject of what we're looking at with, if you look into the UFO stuff and the alien stuff, you read enough stuff, and you find that it's not black and white. There's all these shades of grey. It's not just one type of alien and another. It seems to be like there's a whole world of things out there happening, and they all have different agendas. They're all doing different things. A bit like humans on Earth, we all have our own day-to-day lives and our own projects and stuff we're doing. It seems to be the same out there, and there seems to be all these different hybridization programs and scary stuff, really. If it's true what's happening, especially with the abductee stuff, and there's meant to be hundreds of thousands of these abductees around the world. What they're doing essentially is abducting and raping people. They're forcing people to hybridize and have these hybrid kind of young life forms, half human, half grey, and it goes on for decades, and down family lines, and it's not good stuff. It's not stuff that I would recommend anyone encourage getting into, not by choice anyway. We got the people out there at the moment doing the programs, the C5 program, where they're trying to initiate contact with these beings. You know, it's a bit like a deer trying to initiate contact with a hunter, in my opinion. But
Right.
I don't know. That's their choice, I guess. Any you guys got anything on aliens you want to share?
Daz, you hear me?
Yep.
I done a target last year, and probably in the middle of last year. It was a blind target. I carried it out on a different forum, and the target itself was the Tic Tac from the Nimitz.
Yep.
It turned out that the target itself was an ARV target, and the Q itself was, you know, was it ET or was it man-made? If it was ET, you would view picture A. If it was man-made, you would view picture B. And all the data that I got on that target was that it was man-made. Not man-made in the sense that it was probably back engineered, but it was piloted by humans and man-made in that. And did you get any data on that?
To be honest, I haven't been targeted with the Tic Tac one yet, so I can't comment on it until I do. Yeah, it's one of those ones that I'm dying to do, but you're kind of waiting for someone brave enough to give it to you as a target.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any other remote viewing sessions on it either on the web anywhere at the moment.
Yeah, no, it was one of those ones. It was just I don't think I saved my paperwork on it, but at the time all the data was leaning towards the man-made. Though I don't think there was anything at all from the image of the ET. So it was curious, but again, not surprising, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm just answering a question here in the chat. Someone asked, Zishan Hassan asked, was the underground structure in the Roswell sessions? No, the one I showed just now was from Area 51. I do have my Roswell sessions I can quickly run through if anyone wants to have a quick look at those.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, let me see if I can call them. I will be putting these out at some point, maybe in a couple of weeks. So I'll share my screen a sec. So again, we probably got given a target number from this. In this case, it looks like I made up my own number and just called it 1912. So I probably started those. Well, yeah, I did that. As you can see, the date on the left, right-hand side was the 19th of the 12th. So Courtney probably gave us the target number. I don't know what this one was there, Roswell. It's probably something like target 17 or 18 or 20 or something. And because I didn't want to use that on this instance, I just used the date as my thing. So the date I did this was 19th of the 12th, and the target number I used was 1912. So I just literally, you know, the target numbers do not matter in any way on anything you do. Most of the time I just make them up, you know, especially if I get, you know, because sometimes I get targets from people outside and they give me targets with letters, and I hate targets with letters because, you know, if the letters just happen to coincide, like, you know, and you get the letters ET9A, it starts making you think of things in your mind as you're kind of thinking, oh, is this anything to do with aliens and ETs? So I hate letter targets, so I usually just make up my own numbers. So anyway, so this was essentially, I was blind to it, but it ended up being Roswell. And what have I got here? An object which is curved, code hard, and it's made of metal, layered surface. It felt like it was a fabric. I felt that there was a structure, man-made. It was a past event. It had a historical feel. AOL there, it was esoteric. And then I had these patterns and stars. And I had some stage 2 stuff here that I went into a bit more detail. Code hard, solid, dense metal, acidic taste, smelt of ozone and gas. There was a thunderstorm feel to the environment, and it had an AI of high strangeness to this. So then I moved on to some stage 3 stuff, and I started doing some sketches. Then I had an AOL here of a jello mode kind of curved feel to it. Expanded that in a bit more onto the next page, and you can see I'm starting to draw some kind of shaped surface here, and it's the words here actually talk about a curved grey shiny surface which was made of metal. It was made of a fine grain, and then this describes some kind of moving pattern, so it was like spiraling downwards. So lots of energy, motion, and controlled energy that was moving downwards in an archaic motion. This looks like I'm talking about a curved surface, which is cold and tangible. Something feels cold to the touch. A complex shaped layered object. Lots of energy, a force of electricity, hot electrical hum, iridescent energy, which was glowing and moving energy. Particles and radiation, and more about the energy there by the looks of it. Then there was life, which was disorientated, confused. It'd been involved in a surprise event. Then I talk about the bottom here, lots more energy type stuff. And I do some stage 5 stuff, trying to look at the word iridescent, because I'd never had that in a session before, so I broke it down to see what that meant for me. Some more sketches there at the end, energy and charged particles. So then I moved on to another session later. It looks like a structure. There's just metallic and got lots of energy. Some stage 2 stuff there again. Gray, metal, ozone. Some movement there as well. Feels sexy and energized. Some stage 3 stuff. I'm starting to get some shapes there. Some flowing curve shaped. And it's designed for speed and movement. So I try to describe it in a bit more detail, and I get this curved arch structure and surface. Feels artificial, feels aerodynamic. And then, you know, as you notice from each page, I start off with really rough details, then it gets more and more in depth, and then on the next page it gets even more in depth again, and I can really start honing in on the shape there. So it feels curved, multiple curved flowing shapes to it. And then I go really in detail on it. So, you know, I can draw the structure then, detail that it's built for movement. And this sketch below here, I'm trying to zoom in my internal vision onto the surface of the craft from a few millimeters away, and I'm trying to describe what happens there. So that's showing the dissipating energy interaction that's coming from the craft and there. Then a bit more detail here about how it moves through time and space, how it distorts time and space, how it leaks energy. A bit about how it can move in different angles. I got an AOL submarine because it felt like it was an object that was moving anywhere in space around it, and you know, an object in the ocean can kind of go in any direction. It had that kind of feel about it. A bit more there about how it moves. Even more about the movements, and then some details here. Feel like I'm aboard a ship. There's a crew. They're working. They have orders and a plan. They feel like they're male. They feel like there's 3 to 10 of them. Very focused. They're involved in a process which is driving, using their hands and their mind. So it didn't feel like how we would move a craft or something where you drive it. It felt like they were essentially moving it and controlling the craft with their mind space. And then add an AOL of crash and land at the bottom there. A bit more detail here. What's this? The life inside, what they're doing. A crash event. I could see that it was a downwards motion, not planned. It feels like it's a past event. Just some stage 5 stuff here. Then I think I'll go into another sketch here, talking about one of the life, or some of the life is dead and died. Sketch here describing how, you know, a downwards motion of an object hitting the land. Try to do that in a bit more detail here, so you can actually see these sketches of the object hitting the land and having some kind of messy kind of embedding in the land. I got the word there. Feels under or embedded, which is quite good data. Just letting another person in there. So yeah, so that's it. So that's the paper sessions from Roswell, and then, you know, I moved on to doing, from that I moved straight into doing a whiteboard, and I think there's probably an hour and a half worth of video on that as well. Only some of that's been seen in the Courtney videos, so probably give me 2 or 3 weeks maybe, maybe next week if I got time, and I'll stick all that up online as well. All the raw files I just showed you there, the raw video as well.
Would Courtney have been blind to the target, Daz?
No, Courtney always knows what the target is because he's the project manager. Yeah. But bear in mind, yeah, I've worked for, well, I don't work with him anymore. I did work with him for about 10 years. And I was talking to someone about this today when we were talking about the project. I've pretty much, in all my life, probably only talked to Courtney about 3 times in my life. Or, you know, all our communications with all the projects are literally just straight through an email. And it's just like, you know, would you start target 16 or would you start target 17? You know, that's the only kind of information we get off the guy. That's the only information I should clarify this. That's the only information I got off him, bearing in mind that he's in America and I've always been here in the UK, so we've always worked remotely. I can't confirm anything that he does with the girls who seem to be very, and his son who seem to be very closely working with him.
Daz, were you ever tasked with the same thing that Ingo was tasked with on the other side of the moon?
Not the exact same stuff as Ingo, but I have been tasked with moon stuff quite a lot. And in fact, there's a good article in the news section of my website where over a period of 12 years, I was tasked literally the same target on the moon, but by 3 different people, 3 different taskers over a period of 12 years. And I've put all my remote viewing sessions up from each of the individual taskers of what I found, and it's all exactly the same in all 3 sessions, which is quite interesting because, you know, you would expect that, or I would expect anyway, that each
taskers know they were doing it. I mean, did they know that each other had done it?
No, none
had
of
they
them
coordinated?
No,
That's interesting to me. That's more interesting.
Yeah, none of them have. That's on my website, and all 3 of the sessions are out there as well, and all 3 of the tasking documents are out there as well. So you can have a look at that. And each time I did it, it was a anomalous object on the moon, which looks like some kind of cigar-shaped object in the NASA photograph, hanging out of a crater. It looks, yeah, the data from all 3 coincide, but strangely, well, not strangely, but each time I did it, I got, you know, over the period of 12 years, not knowing what I was doing, of course, the sessions did get better and better over the period of that time. Yeah. But there's lots of stuff. There's lots. I've done lots of stuff on the moon. Courtney tasked me several times to go to Mars. You know, the pyramids on Mars, the Cydonia region of Mars. And bearing in mind that when Ingo talks in his new book, well, in the re-released version of Penetration, about a time when he was tasked to look at the moon, the area he was tasked to look at the moon was very, and he saw stuff there. It was very close to the site, what they class as the Cydonia region of the area there as well. So yeah, lots of stuff. Lots of rotors. I've collected loads of data, and that's what I hope to do in the next 8 Martinis, is to publish some of the Moon and Mars data that have been collected over the last 40 years. Because there have been, I mean, I've seen so many remote viewers been tasked with the Moon and Mars, and they've all, to the one, come back and seen man-made and artificial stuff on both those.
Have you ever had like a dialogue or something with an alien encounter or something?
Once or twice, definitely in the Phoenix Lights project that I did for Farsight, because I noticed, you know, it was I kind of knew halfway through the RV that I was in the end, there was some kind of alien craft with a life form there. So I did go into the, you know, because you can do this, any one of us can do this with remote viewing. We can make the decision to move into this headspace or the mind or the thoughts and feelings of any life at the target and describe it. So I did that, and it felt like there was a little bit of a 2-way kind of dialogue going on. Other than that, I would say I have had lots of alien type or non-physical. I don't like to call them alien, because we're more alien than they are. I like to call them kind of like non-physical life forms and stuff, because a lot of them aren't real, aren't physical. You can't touch them. But most of those experiences I've had have been within what I call classical psychic training and lots of channeled information. And I did write about it. It's not something I publicized a lot, but I did write a book about it called Surfing the Psychic Internet, and it is out there on Amazon and stuff. It's just that it's not something I publicize because it doesn't really go hand in hand with remote viewing, because it's not remote viewing. It's it's classical psychic and it's channeled information, and it's not as reliable as remote viewing.
You share what you talk to them, or?
There's lots of experiences I had, and it's strange when you do that kind of stuff, because it's a lot more archaic, and you tend to be put through lots of strange kind of tests when you do that kind of classical psychic stuff, and there's a lot more of an interpretation thing going on. But essentially, I had lots of conversations with many different life forms that were interacting with humans, and the universe is just teeming with life on many different levels. And some of it was good, and some of it was bad. In the book, I detail many experiences that I had with these shadow type dark life forms, where we were almost having non-physical confrontations. They didn't like the fact that we were exploring and we were sharing and we were opening up, and they were there to try to stop us doing that. So it's not all roses and good stuff. There's some bad stuff to all this.
Yes. I was wondering if I could ask you, I think I'm probably going to take some heat for this, and you can shut me down, but I never hear anybody talking about remote influencing.
What would you like to know?
Well, mostly, the way that I see it is it's managing atoms, or the way that I see it is it's communicating with atoms or molecules. But I don't see anybody ever address it in the remote viewing stuff, because I think it's frowned upon. Would that be right?
Yeah, it seems to be, and it seems to be an area which is hard to quantify, and it's a hard one because it's not talked about. But everyone experiences it, and we kind of know that just by being involved, anyone that's involved in an experiment at some level affects that experiment, and that includes remote viewing. And, we have anecdotal evidence that prayer works and meditation works, and in each of us as a human being, there's more than enough evidence in medical research to show that the placebo effect works, and that's essentially some kind of mental influence. On the edge of my table here, these are, and this is what I'm doing when I'm stuck at home at the moment. So that's the new books from the Stargate archives. They're fantastic books. They are really, really expensive though. I think each one of those is like for me, it was like £100 or something. But it's got all the papers from SRI and Stargate stuff in there. Wow. One of these is, if I look at it, bear with me a sec. One of these is psychokinesis.
Cool.
So that there's all the paperwork and research and reports and stuff that they did on, and they collected on that. And there's a document here which I just passed. A quantum measurement experiment with single photon interferometer. So they did do lots of stuff in the military unit, not in the military unit, but in the SRI program. I've seen them found several references to them doing quite a lot of what they called, and they didn't call it remote influence, you see, they called it RA, remote action. I found references to it in a few single documents detailing some of the research they were doing, but I haven't found anything to really confirm what they were doing. It's a bit like a not talked about dark art part of the possibility what they were looking at.
From that stack of books, I think you're insinuating that you're going to be confined for some time, unless you're a speed reader.
Well, I think we're, I'm from my intuition and what's happening, and from what we remote viewed, I'm expecting to. I've been in for 2 weeks. I'm expecting to be here till at least June,
Yes.
maybe even
Yes, I
further.
agree.
Yeah, it'd
I
be fair
think
there.
it's going to last a long time, but I think that you might get a respite sometime between June and August.
Well, yeah, I go out for a daily walk because I'm allowed out for an hour a day. But me and the wife, we tend to go a bit longer than an hour. So we're already tempting fate, to be honest.
What does your wife think about your remote viewing?
But I do recommend those books. I mean, to be honest, you can get all the stuff that's in those books free on the internet. You know, it's been around for a while, so you can download the entire Stargate document archives anyway. But to be honest, and the way the CIA released them, they released them in such a terrible state. It is almost, you know, it's not accidental. They clearly took the many discs of material they had and just completely mixed it all up to make it really hard to do any proper research with it. And that's the good thing about those books is it's got all the key documents in there, and it's got some in there that's a bit more up to date, and they're less redacted than the ones that the CIA initially released. But they're actually in a great format, and there's obviously a contents, and there's all the information in the back for your stuff. So, and to be honest, although I'm an advocate from reading on screen because I use a Kindle for everything, seeing all the papers, on paper form is a lot easier than reading it on a screen. But as I said, it's not, the books aren't cheap. They're not cheap at all. They're very expensive. But if you do get the money at some point, it's worth a try. But if you can't, then get the documents online. They're there.
Hey, Daz, it's Chris. I got a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that Mars. I think it was it ERV extended remote viewing Joe McGonigal did in 1984. Do you have any insight on that, or I think it's just speaking of CIA documents. I think that was one of those CIA documents. I was reading that the other day. I'm sure you have any thoughts on that one.
All I can add to it is that I've been tasked with Mars myself multiple times, blind targets, by Courtney and other people. And I've seen very similar stuff, it coincides exactly what Joe said. And I've also collected quite a few remote viewing sessions from people that I've worked with over the years, who have also worked Mars and the Moon, and all their data seems to confirm that as well. I think Mars and the Moon are very important in our life of who we are as human beings on Earth. It's just hidden from us, and there's some really good anecdotal evidence out there to support all this. There have been many people who've come forward saying that they've seen, and these people that used to work in NASA said that many of them come forward saying that they've seen the analyst doctoring images at NASA and places like that. And on the Moon stuff, I did actually visit Ingo at his place in New York, and I asked him quite a lot of questions about penetration in his book about the Moon and Mars. And he confirmed to me that the Moon stuff, and he actually went to a filing cabinet and got out the feedback he had for the Moon and the coordinates and everything, and showed me the bits and pieces. And he was clearly adamant to me that it was all real, it all happened. And I asked him, I said, your book penetration, I said it's pretty out there. There's a lot of people that aren't going to believe that you had these interactions, you went to a secret facility, all that kind of stuff. And he outright looked at me and and he said, well, how do you think it was for me? I lived it.
Right.
So I have no qualms in saying that I have no reason to believe that everything that he wrote about in that book happened to him. I think it really did.
All somebody has to do is to read that book. Somebody else is on the moon. And that gives you clear references and photographs, tracks, and an object going across the moon leaving tracks.
Yeah, it's a
Hey,
good book.
Daz, can I throw something at Chris?
Yeah, go for it.
Chris, did you get Ingo's special edition penetration yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, to substantiate what you said, Tom McNear, who Daz can tell you a lot about, Ingo considered one of the best remote viewers, maybe his best student, maybe even better than him in certain places. He seems to substantiate Joe's Mars sessions by his own, and by strange coincidence, unrelated to Joe's session, Ingo set up a team of 5 viewers to view Mars within, I think it was a couple of weeks proximity. But Tom McNear goes into a lot of detail starting in that missing chapter, chapter 9, that wasn't in the original penetration. And then he has his own chapter. So he almost says he believes Joe's sessions were accurate.
That's interesting. So I guess kind of the reason why I got fixated on this, I posted this on Daz's Facebook, but I don't think really too many people saw it. I was listening to a documentary about the Aliens movies, the one with Sigourney Weaver. The director, Ridley Scott, said he wanted to make a sequel to Alien back in 1984, which is the same year Joe McGonigal did his viewing. And what Ridley Scott was, the director, Ridley Scott, was explaining his sequel was going to be about. It was going to be like the alien was from Mars, and it was from sort of long lost civilization on Mars, like the war type thing. And I just thought that was kind of a strange coincidence how they had that.
As I said, there have been a lot of people that have viewed Mars. If I'm going to share this with you a sec, it's only a small image, but from the book that you know, the updated version that Russell just showed you, Ingo was and I can't remember the other guy, Harold was set a target to look at Mars and stuff. And I found the target. This was the actual target that Ingo went to on Mars, which was this crater, and on the rim of this crater had this kind of weird structure thing going on. So that was actually what he was sent to have a look at.
What was interesting on this book that Russell just showed now, the missing chapter, I listened to a podcast. I think the link is in there in the group.
Damn it.
I'm not sure if it was Tom McNear or who discussed this chapter, but somebody made inference that what Ingo observed might have been the future. Are there any thoughts on that?
Sorry, we're getting some interference.
Getting some aliens on the line.
Let me see if I can find out what's interfering.
I think it's from the WhatsApp. Someone from WhatsApp.
Okay, so you didn't get any of that.
I might have muted them now. Go on, carry on. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. The missing chapter. I'm not sure if it was Tom McNear. There was a podcast link in the group that I listened to discussing the missing chapter, and it was discussed that what is in the chapter could possibly infer to all that was viewed being in the future.
I don't know if I've
Are there
seen
any
that.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that. I do know that they both guys looked at the same structure or same target at the same time. Yeah, no, I don't know if it's a future.
Because
thing.
I haven't read the chapter myself, so it was interesting that they discuss saying that Ingo felt it was in the future.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me.
I can't remember, to be honest. It's been a while since I read it. Let me see if I can find it here a second.
Because I'm just interested on the taskings if there were a certain time frame attached to those sessions.
Yeah, I
like
can't
view Mars
remember.
in a certain year.
I'm just having a look here through my files. I was quite lucky, you see, because I managed to get a copy of the chapter a few months before it went in the book from the family. Just trying to have a look here, see what they say. I'm not sure they mentioned that. It's worth buying the book just for the new chapters alone, to be honest.
Yes.
And they do I think they have an ebook version of it as well. No, I can't find it off the top of my head here. I don't know on that one. But there's lots of other evidence to support structures on Mars as well. There's a guy, a UFO researcher, who was quite prominent in the early 90s, called Richard C. Hoagland. He wrote a couple of books and did some really interesting videos on the Cydonia region of Mars, and they did lots of analysis of the lining up of the structures and all that kind of stuff, which is quite interesting. I never really put huge amounts of stock into it until I started remote viewing Mars and seeing stuff. But yes, it is some interesting data, and I think you can see quite a lot of that stuff on YouTube as well if you're interested in that.
You can also make mention of the sessions that you and I did for Courtney Brown about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They've just redone.
Yeah, they've just been redone by the girls, haven't they? The very same ones. Yeah. And interestingly, I had an email from Courtney this week talking about how he's been trying to get those. He wrote a paper on those sessions, and he'd been trying to get it published, and it had gone through the entire process of being looked at by scholars and stuff. And then at the very last minute, they pulled out of the paper doing anything with it. What did he say here on that? Yeah, because he just tells me to go and have a look at the new files on it as well. He said the paper was accepted, and within 2 weeks of publication, it got pulled very abruptly. Yeah, so I don't know what that's about, but interesting stuff there.
Daz, sorry, quick question. Have you and any of the crypto viewing guys seen any alien connection with this coronavirus stuff?
Thank you.
Because this this week, Courtney's girls, they released something, and one of them was seeing a future event in probably wherever it was, and suddenly she picked up an ET type entity sort of detecting her there. Right. So I wonder if you guys did that, and what she was viewing was like the White House or somewhere, like a whole bunch of people having a meeting about stuff, and just near there was some kind of entity watching this, viewing it, and she picked up on this entity and they picked up on her. But have you guys picked up anything like this as well?
I haven't, but coincidentally, for the crypto viewing, every month we do, we try to look ahead news prediction wise. So in late March, I did remote viewing to see what the top news stories for April were going to be, and we put these out before April starts for the people that pay, just to see what, and it's literally just top news stories, what cryptos might do, what markets might do, what the top global news for April may be. And in this month or in March is predicted remote viewing for April. Both Dick and Edward both had a big major UFO sighting that was going to be very prominent in the news in April. I don't know if that's got any relevance to the virus or anything, but they did have that data in their top news for April.
Cool, thank you.
I didn't have that. I don't think. I mean, I can. No, I'm quite sure I didn't have any stuff like that. But let me just have a quick look at my session here. My predictive news. I don't think I had anything alien in it whatsoever. I had Trump stuff, market crashing stuff, crypto stuff, COVID-19 death stuff, how many were going to die in the US, all that kind of stuff, when they were going to die, stuff, structure stuff. No, I didn't get any alien stuff, but I know that they did. And that's probably available. I think I've seen that actually published the last couple of days on crypto viewing somewhere. So if you wanted to see it, you could see some of the stuff there that they put out.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did
It's a clangy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, your voice has gone really high pitched. We can't hear what you're saying.
Donald Duck.
You might have to type it into the chat window because yeah, you're sounding a bit like an alien.
A bit.
Is anyone got anything you guys want to share? Anything you're doing or you want to see? Or is there any projects you want to see? Any previous stuff you want to discuss? Any questions? Anything? Is this open chat?
Any thoughts on the QAnon stuff?
To be honest, I haven't looked at any of that, so I don't. I have no idea whatsoever. Edward would be the guy to ask on the QAnon stuff. He's done that side remote viewing on that.
I think somebody put some coordinates inside the chat and said like go to Google Earth or something like that.
Okay.
It wasn't me. I didn't.
I can have a quick
something like that. I think it's the person who we can't hear. I have no idea what that's all about.
Daz, I have one question about something you said earlier.
Yeah.
Which session was that where you had a brief sense of a possible two-way communication, speculating or looking at the mental space of the individual?
That was in Phoenix Lights remote viewing I did for Farsight.
Because that was one thing that Tom McNear said that actually surprised me quite a bit was the entities he communed with during his 1984 Mars session. And then remember, I don't know, I think you were part of that one APP talk.
Yeah.
And I had asked him, had he ever had the sense of, interacting with something or someone at the site. So the details on that were part of what he used to substantiate Joe McMonagle's Mars 1 million year BC, because Joe also had an experience of communicating with some sort of a being.
Yeah.
Okay, so Phoenix Lights then.
Yes, and I don't know if Courtney's got. I think you still have to pay for that through Courtney.
I'm signed up with them, so that won't be a problem.
Okay, but I am going over, as I said earlier, over the next few weeks, all the previous work I can find that I did for Farsight, I will be putting all my raw files for that online. So I will be putting my raw video files for that and my raw session files for that online for people to have for free very soon.
Did you by any chance listen to Paul's latest revelation on George Norrie?
No, I haven't seen that. No, I haven't heard that one.
It surprised me, but he went back to some of his moon sessions. And the reason I'm bringing this up in case you can get him to offer those to your upcoming eight martinis. But he, for the first time ever, admitted, but because he went back and remembered, he had the distinct sense that he was spotted on the moon.
Okay.
And that really shocked me coming from Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
Then he also, for the first time, came out straightforwardly and said he's suspending his disbelief, and now he believes in some of the ET presence stuff. So that was a really interesting interview because knowing Paul fairly well, and then hearing that after, well, he kind of politely denied some of it. But when it came to the forefront, that interview, that was interesting stuff.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly believe from the remote viewing sessions I've done and for the classical psychic stuff that non-physical and physical entities that aren't human can interact and see us in that psychic kind of way. I've just seen no evidence in any actual physical remote viewing sessions that other remote viewers can do that.
Yeah, I've gone through a fair amount of accounts. I've never seen it where it was documented that a human of any nature on the other end picked up on it.
Yeah.
But it does appear to be that the ET.
Yeah. Because in the I showed some pictures earlier. I don't know if you were here or if you went away for a second. I showed some pictures of some aliens that I've drawn in the past. In my research. I'll share them again here for a second.
Yeah, the one actually, since you're going to do it again, I didn't want to bother you. There was one about 3/4 of the way down that had some sort of little symbol on their chest.
This
right there.
Yeah.
Was that something you perceived or something you added to the drawing?
That's something I don't know if I perceived it or if it's from a book I read.
Those are beautiful drawings.
This one here was the only one that I actually saw in a remote viewing session that saw me because I accidentally woke. It started off lying at a 45-degree angle on a bed in an underground facility, and as I moved my consciousness forwards, remote viewing wise, it knew I was there, jumped off the bed, and physically tried to attack me, which then brought me out of the session. So that was the only time I've ever had any sense of danger in real life and felt like I was actually attacked by some kind of physical or non-physical being. I can't tell if it was physical or non-physical. So that was the only one, and it was really predatory. It moved really slickly, like fast, like a lion type thing, which is weird because after literally 3 to 4 decades of me reading every book possible and seeing everything about the aliens and the greys, all that kind of stuff, there's never been any indication of them moving anything other than rather clumsily, whereas this was very kind of strangely predatory and scary.
Yeah.
I have a question about that, guys. Russell and Daz. Do you think they're able to do this possibly because they maybe have like a wider scope of like perceptual awareness? I mean, how is it do you think they're able to possibly, can you speculate on that?
From what I've read, and there's some great books on this, and there's a great book.
Love the book, by the way.
Hi there.
Psychic Highway, loved it. Great.
Oh, thank you. There's a couple of really great books where people have been abducted and their whole family lines have been abducted. I can't remember what it's called. It's called I think the woman abductee's name's Betty, and she did some amazing. Her whole book's got these amazing sketches of how these aliens interact with her. And she details really in depth about how they use these little wand-type devices and how they can essentially make themselves almost, walk through walls and non-physical. They're physical sometimes, and then they're non-physical just by using these devices. So I think that these life forms that we're interacting with, and this is based on RV and on channel type psychic information, and from reading lots of material as well, is that they can. And we're not talking about one individual here. We're talking about a smorgasbord of all different types of things happening here. That multiple types of these life forms seems to have the ability to manipulate time, space, and dimensions at their will. So if they want to come into your house, they don't have to physically come through a wall or come through a window. They can do something in some way that make that area that they want to travel through non-physical, or make themselves non-physical to actually get within the space to get to you. It's very, very strange stuff.
Hey, can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me any better, or is it still bad?
Yeah, we can hear you now, yeah.
Much better.
So thank you for hosting. I really appreciate it. So you guys are talking about the moon, and I just wanted to share some coordinates that I pasted in the group chat. If you open up Google Earth, and instead of selecting Google Earth on the top menu, you can select the moon. If you paste in those coordinates, you're going to see a structure that has so many 90-degree corners that it looks like a building. It's just, there's no other way to explain it. And you may find that to be a rather interesting target. And I'm not sure why this doesn't get a lot of publicity, but I actually went in there to make sure it was still there. And I found it quite fascinating.
Is that the one?
That's the one. Yeah, that's it. And it's like if you zoom in, you could see the 90-degree corners where you look like you have different rooms. I mean, it's not like a meteor crashed and created that shape. It's too
Definitely looks like it might make a good good project. Anything else? Anyone got any questions or anything you want to share or anything?
Daz, have you ever viewed or looked at orbs?
No, that's. I'm a bit. I have to be completely honest here. I'm a bit dubious about orbs. Bearing in mind that I'm an amateur or learning, growing photographer, and just from taking normal photography and pointing my lens in a certain direction and catching refractions in light, I can get similar kind of orb type things in quite a lot of my photography. And I don't think that they're esoteric. And I'm not saying that's the whole answer, but a lot of the pictures that I've seen, to me as a photographer in training, do look like just refractions in dust and stuff.
I have seen a lot of those taken by photographers, but there are one or two kind of exceptions that kind of stand out.
Yeah,
you know.
I have seen some video film of, and they're not exactly orbs, but they're almost like long stick insect type things with wings, which are a bit more interesting to me. I can't, other than maybe the camera catching a slow motion and blurring an image of an insect, I can't work out what those things might be, because there is some video footage. I don't know if it's online now. I think it was called the NASA transmissions, and there are lots of those orbs. I don't know if, let me just see if I can find it a second, because it's actually an amazing video. So it was a guy who literally set his video recorder up to video all the video footage that NASA were beaming back continuously. He just had his VHS recorder taping absolutely everything, and it was called the Secret NASA Transmissions. Let me see if I can find a clip of that. That is the best orb footage I've ever seen, and it's NASA footage, and it shows them doing something up in space where they decouple one part of a spaceship from another, and as they're doing it, you can see hundreds of these orb type things flying around, and they're not going in one direction. They are literally changing direction in orbit as they go. Let me see if I can just find it on YouTube, or so. It's just see if I can show you something quickly from it. That was the best orb video stuff I've ever seen, and yeah, that's going back to the 90s.
Yeah, I remember those seeing in a cave. I think they're called flying rods, the flying rod phenomena.
Yeah.
I'm looking at them here.
Actually, the whole video is available on YouTube, I think. I'm just having a look here to see if it is. Yeah, it looks like the whole video. I'll paste the link so you guys can get to see it.
Thanks.
So here's the link to it. It's definitely worth watching. Everyone publicly will that go through as a link. Chat window. Chat. It won't let me share it for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why. It won't let me share.
No worries.
What I'll do is, if you just go to, I can show you it here, so you know what to look for. So this is it in YouTube. So just type in the Secret NASA Transmissions, and it will show you it. Let me see if I can show you a bit of the footage. Some of the footage is pretty amazing of all these orbs up in space. So you know, that's the space station there. And he's got some amazing footage on here that, yeah, I recommend, of all these orbs going right up close to the space station and moving, changing directions and all kinds of weird stuff. There it is here. So there's something that decouples from the space station, and as you can see all the orbs up in space, all moving around it, all changing direction. He said they actually swarm around it at one point.
Cool.
So that's definitely worth watching on the orb stuff. That's the best stuff I've ever seen. As you can see here, here's the space object there. They decouple something, and you can literally see all the stuff that's happening around, all moving around up in space. Look, very strange stuff.
Yeah, could it just be debris?
I don't know if it would. I don't know if the debris would. If debris like something explodes or moves outwards, it moves out in a direction and like this. You won't get stuff going in and out and then changing flight path halfway through its flight path.
I remember like
debris doesn't go in 90-degree angles and stuff. So
they have a pulse or something. They're pulsing.
Yeah. It's definitely a video worth watching. It's a bit scarce now, but it was out in the late 90s, and the whole video is there on YouTube for you to watch. So that's the best orb stuff I've ever seen. The rest of the stuff, the single images, I'm a bit dubious about, but I'm also dubious about a lot of UFO images as well, because they're if it's just an image of a single light in the sky, it holds no value whatsoever.
During the Second World War, didn't the German and English fighter pilots have experiences with what they call Foo Fighters, which were more or less orbs?
Yeah, and there's quite a lot of possible evidence that a lot of what they saw were maybe the Nazi experiments, because they were quite in depth in what they're doing. And in fact, there's a great book called The Hunt for Zero Point by Nick Cook that details some of the Nazi experiments in the UFO stuff. That's a great book to read. And the guy that wrote that, Nick Cook, is also just very soon going to release an Ingo Swann book that I've got. And he's also doing the unofficial Ingo Swann autobiography book as well at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Two quick things about pictures. One of the things that actually sells me today, you can kind of reproduce anything, so it's very hard to believe things. But when you look at pictures that are paintings from the 1700s, like there's one called, I think it's called The Baptism of Christ. It's from 1710. If you Google that, you see what looks like a picture of the Baptism of Christ, and there appears to be what looks like a UFO with beams coming down to this area. And these have been hanging in museums for hundreds of years before we even had airplanes. It kind of gives it a little bit more validity that these, they've been here, they are here, they probably will continue to be here. It's nothing new about it.
Absolutely, yeah. There's tons of that stuff around, and you can even, if you look at it in depth, you can even interpret big events in the books like the Bible as UFO events. Like I don't know if you guys have read. There's several books on it, but Ezekiel had an experience, and they call it Ezekiel's wheel. And when you look at what he's describing, he's describing some kind of craft that comes down from the sky, and it's got physical wheels that are turning on it and all kinds of stuff. And they got there's a book about how they got a NASA scientist, I think, an astrophysicist and an engineer to look at the Bible description of this event and then try to draw what it was, and they ended up drawing some kind of UFO type physical craft. So a lot of things like that, where you had angels come down on clouds that talk to people in the Bible and religious books. They could be UFO events.
Daz, sorry, did you pick up anything ET-ish when you did the sessions on Christ? I think you did a session on Christ, didn't you? With
I've done two now. Doing some for Courtney on the crucifixion, and I did one for someone else on Jesus on the cross. And no, I didn't pick anything. Did I pick anything alien up? I honestly can't remember. It's on my website anyways. It's on my website, so I honestly can't remember. I've done so many I can't remember. But I did some recently for crypto viewing. They had us. Someone had us look at what was called the Code of Hammurabi, which is this
I saw that. Yeah,
stone thing. And in that one, I did have some God type entity type thing that actually given this code, this message to us as humans to help us change the way we are and all that kind of stuff. That felt like it was from some kind of weird space type, alien type, godlike entity. I didn't go into depth on what it was, but it felt very esoteric on that one.
Thank you.
Do you think the Vatican and the aliens are connected in a way?
I think the Vatican know, you know, in their archives, they've got huge amounts of stuff that they're keeping secret from everyone. And, you know, the mere fact that the people that wrote the Bible that most people follow edited the Bible in the, you know, they took several books out of it that they didn't want in and stuff. They clearly got an agenda and a message that they want to propose, and it's, you know, it's just like everything else. It's essentially a business, isn't it, that they're running with a message. So I know the Vatican know about all this kind of stuff. They got huge libraries of stuff that we'll never get to see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I believe, like some people, like there's this reptilian race in there. You know, they're controlling the Vatican and the religious circles and all that kind of. I don't know how. I'm a person that needs a bit more evidence and stuff, and I don't see no evidence for anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Have you done any?
People are aware of the purported crashed large UFO on the dark side of the moon.
We discussed that a bit earlier, Rick. For the guys here who are listening, Rick was one of the guys that tasked me over that period of 12 years to look at an object on the moon that I did 1 of 3 times.
Cool.
Amazing.
I was telling them earlier, Rick, before you were here, that all 3 sessions from the 3 different taskers they're on my website that they can download and have a look at. And the funny thing is, I think Rick was one of the first ones to task me with that. And afterwards, we were discussing it, and I was quite dismissive. I was like, "What the fuck are you sending me to this place for? This has got to be bullshit." I was quite dismissive. I think, well, I reckon. And then, you know, over the period of the next 12 years or something, 2 other people tasked me with it, and I got the same stuff. And then I went back to Rick like a decade later, and I said, "Fuck's sake, I got 3 of you give me the same target. I got the same stuff." Yeah.
Have you done any targets? Have you done any targets, Daz, that directly correlates with alien abduction?
Oh, let me think. I'm trying to think. I don't think anyone's tasked me on anything like that yet. I've seen I've seen the aliens involved in things like crop circles and you know, Roswell and Area 51 and places like that. No, I don't think anyone's tasked me with a classical alien abduction event yet, which would be good because there are some really credible ones out there in some really good books, you know, like the Betty and Barney Hill ones and stuff like that would make really good, solid UFO remote viewing cases because they have quite a lot of tangible and credible evidence to back them up. But no.
What about, and have you done anything on Antarctica?
No, again, that's something else. I keep seeing Linda Moulton Howe is pushing quite solidly, but no one's tasked me with looking at Antarctica yet. That's something else I'd like to, you know, that's on my wish list of things to maybe look at.
Have you ever remote viewed a crop circle? I mean, you're in the right part of the world for that.
Yeah, and that's available on my remote viewing website. And not only that, the major crop circles started in the UK from 1989, July 1989 onwards, and that's when they before that they were essentially just circles, but in July-ish 1989 they started forming into pictograms, so multiple circles in multiple shapes. And when that started happening, that was when I was really starting to get quite heavily into UFO research. For the next 10 years, I spent every summer investigating crop circles because they were literally half an hour away from where I live. And the very first major pictogram that ever happened in 1989, so that's multiple crop circles, happened in a location called Alton Barnes. And I quite luckily, when on the very first night it was in the press, and I saw it was a stunning arrangement. And I managed to take a sample of corn from inside the biggest circle, and I took a control sample of corn from way outside, a couple 100 meters away in the field. I still have them to this day in sealed bags, and the stuff from inside the circle is as dry and clean as the day I picked it, but the stuff from 200 meters away is all moldy and black and gone completely rancid. But yeah, crop circles are very interesting. My true belief is as they got more popular, people started faking them, and there's a mixture of fake and real ones in there. But I think the initial phenomenon had a weirdly non-physical, possibly, I don't want to say for definite, possibly alien connection to it. And there's lots of evidence to support this out. Like the guy that there's a guy that wrote a book. He wrote a book. His name's Jim Schnabel. He wrote a book about remote viewing and studied remote viewing, and he actually took training with Ingo Swann. He was quite heavily involved in CIA research into crop circles and kind of disinformation campaign about crop circles in the 89 to 91 period in Wiltshire area. So there's lots of weird, very strange stuff going on with Jim Schnabel, CIA, and all his connections, and very strange stuff.
So now that you're talking about crop circles, I remember looking at a video a long time ago of something that looked a little bit fake at the time, but now that the Nimitz video came out, it looked a little bit like the Tic Tac drawing with, then you have these little flying soccer ball-like things from a distance anyway, and they were the circles were being manifested as they were flying over. My question, I guess, would be, assuming that they are created by UFOs, then one must think that there's a purpose behind it. There's an image that's being left behind. Is that something that could be remote viewed to get the interpretation thereof?
I think so, yeah. I just don't think enough people have put enough time and effort into doing a credible project on that. I know Ed Dames did something in the early, I think late 80s, early 90s, but I don't know what the outcome of that was. I did a couple myself that were tasked me in the 90s, and I put one of them online, but I haven't seen anything solidly credible from anyone looking at it. So yeah, it would be an interesting target, but you would have to, I think, be very selective over which crop circles you want to target, because as I said, as the years went on, I got a feeling, and I know for a fact actually, because I know one of the guys that used to fake them, a lot of the crop circles were, and still are, faked for artistic reasons, although the people faking them to some degree, and I know a couple of them very well, to some degree they do claim that they are they feel like they're influenced in some way to do that.
Daz, when you were inside the perimeter of that circle getting the corn, did you have any particular physical, emotional, or perceptual sensations?
Not on that occasion, but there were many times that I did go into crop circle. I was quite lucky in the fact that it was happening locally to me, because it's where I live here in the area, Somerset area, and I was quite lucky on a couple occasions when people saw crop circles, they would phone me. And I essentially was, as far as I'm aware, the first physical human that had actually been in those crop circles. So on a couple of the occasions, yeah, there were some very interesting vibrational kind of energies that were going on there. It felt real to me. Yeah, but that was, I'm talking early days of crop circle research now. So 89, probably 90. 91, 90, 92, I did this. And in fact, the strange thing is, on the day I got married in 91, and the day, the night before I was getting married, because I was heavily into the crop circle research, my wife-to-be was at home getting ready, and I was actually out in the fields of Wiltshire with a scientist and a Japanese film crew showing them around crop circles, knowing that I had to get up a few hours later to get married. Very strange time that was.
And she's still
Daz,
with you.
If you had unlimited resources and funds, what aspect of remote viewing would you want to research further?
Well, that's a good question. I would,
very good.
Unlimited resources, I would set up a 10-year remote viewing project, a bit like the SRI one, to I would pick a team of scientists and remote viewers to work literally for 10 years. You know, I would pay them to not work on anything but remote viewing for 10 years, and it would be to validate remote viewing properly, because I think it's been done enough, but science doesn't think it's been done enough. So I would do that as one of the aims. I would have several other aims. One would be to work on technology, future use, medical type, human use things, you know, cure for cancer, looking at the far reaches of the universe, that kind of thing. And I would also have a third goal of trying to find exactly what the mechanism of remote viewing is, you know how it works, why it works, because I don't think we're there. And until we know, you know, we got this engine, we've got a car with an engine in it, but you know, we're driving the car, but we don't know how the engine works. And until we know how the engine works, we don't know how to soup it up or tune it. That's how I see it.
Thank you.
Better get them lottery tickets put in, Daz.
Yes, it needs a lot of money. I mean, we say it's a lot of money, but you know, when you've got these billionaires out there, I think a really cracking remote viewing, a dedicated remote viewing effort could do a serious amount of credible damage, and maybe do a lot of work for future use of all humans for, I don't know, I haven't put a figure to it yet, but you could probably do something for 10 to 20 million, a 5 to 10 year project. And you know, when you're talking about people out there, where you're talking, you know, Trump with his 2.2 trillion, and there's people out there that are billionaires, that kind of money is short change to a lot of people out there. It's just finding someone that would put that up. But you know, if someone would put that up, you could put together a really dedicated, you know, 5 to 10 year project, hiring all the best people in the fields, you know, make them work on this and nothing else, and you could actually get somewhere. But it's getting the money to do it, really. Everyone I know is working on remote viewing across the board. You know, every school and everything. We're all part-time amateurs, really.
Oh, here's a question. Are you ever concerned that some things, there are people that have the power and the best interest to keep others from knowing, may put what, let's see how to rephrase that, may put what we're doing at risk? They may not really be wild about us finding out, or people finding out the true secrets. I think that was one of Ingo's concern when he was at SRI. He had mentioned that he was in the bathroom, I think in a stall, and he heard the 2 CIA agents speaking and saying they could read our minds, you know, there is no secrets, and that's a serious...
Absolutely. I totally believe that that's what's happening, and that's one of the reasons why there isn't a concerted effort to find out how this works, because you know, at a core level, we do know, and those people do know, that this is a real phenomenon. And, you know, if it can be absolutely proved beyond all doubt, and everyone knew that there are a certain bunch of people out there that could read people's minds, they could go in the cabinets and read documents and all this kind of stuff, that scares the hell out of a lot of people out there that want to control with power and stuff. You know, they don't want that kind of thing to happen. And we also have to be aware as well that, although I'd like to do a program, you know, I'd like to get that 10 million and do a 5-year program and do that. It's a bit like when people used to look into UFOs in a bit more of a serious nature. There are certain people that don't want you to do that, and you might end up having, you know, you might end up doing a Pat Price and having a heart attack.
Right.
You know, so being a bit more serious in this might have implications from the people that just do not want everyone to know that if you put your mind to it, you can go anywhere and read anything and do anything.
And there's a couple of examples, the Tanner Dam, and also the presentation and the sessions that you did the other year, or sorry, the other people did sessions for your thought experiment, which you put up to Irva, which clearly demonstrates getting into somebody's mind.
Yeah. It's been done many times. So there is a danger to it. I read a brilliant series of books, and they're available on Amazon. I think they're called the Brilliance series, and it essentially details these kind of people with mutant powers. You know, they could do things with their mind and stuff. Essentially, how they were essentially, you know, because of what they can do, they're essentially hunted down and killed by the governments of the world, because they just can't be allowed to exist. You know, they don't want that people with that kind of ability.
Well,
So,
one of
yeah,
the books that Ingo wrote, I thought, was about the Chinese superpower. There's some of, I forget the exact name. I think I have it somewhere, but he references a lot of the special talent that some of the China that lies behind China with
Yeah.
regard to psychokinesis and just other incredible tasks that they could do.
There's lots out there about that, and there's lots in these books that detail the Chinese stuff, and in the Stargate files as well. It's the thing with anything to do with China, and as we're finding with the virus stuff, it's hard to verify and quantify anything that comes out of that part of the world. But being a person that's spent their entire life dedicated and interested in martial arts, I've seen some amazing stuff happen with people that do Tai Chi, Kung Fu, and Qigong as well. The energies that flow, and that kind of stuff's really inherent in their belief system and their way of being. So for them to spend money and to be dedicated to this kind of research it makes sense to them, and it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense that they're getting somewhere and going places, and probably keeping it highly secret as well. If anyone's involved in doing research in the remote viewing on that kind of level, for me it would be the Chinese and the Asian governments.
Some questions in the chat, maybe.
There's one
Do you
at the end
believe
here, Igor. Daz, have you been asked to RV climate changes and the pole shift? Only in so much as I did a project for Courtney Brown. I can't remember what it was now. It might have been 2017. Let me see if it's still up. So I made a website about it as well and put a massive website online. Yeah. So we did a project in 2013 for Courtney Brown. And it was to try to look at climate changes across the world on key dates and stuff. And the whole project's here online. So the URL for it is climatechange2013.com. And it's got the project overview here with all the targets we had. And it's got the remote viewing for those targets as well. And the project conclusions that he came up with as a video. And then what I did, because I think it was looking for the next 3-4 years in the future at climate change, I then, for the news, I collected all the news on climate change for the next 4 years that matched the data that we had in the remote viewing session. So you can actually see all the news that I found for 4 years as well, which matched the target data. So yeah, we did that in 2013. And I think we had some very valid data that showed some massive climate changes that were going to happen then and in the future. And I think it's still happening to this day, to be honest. Any other questions here in the chat?
I was going to ask real quick, Tony, are you in the Facebook remote viewing group, either Daz's or the other one?
I think I'm in both. I'm definitely in Daz's. That's how I saw the invite to this session.
Okay, are you in there under your own name?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll send you either a private message or if maybe something public. What Pat Price said about how they suppress being discovered, and then a couple of things Ingo said in a kind of hard to find article that he wrote back in the 90s.
Yeah, I'm willing to share. I have quite a library. I've been collecting this stuff for well over 30 years. I took a lesson with David Morehouse back in 1999 on remote viewing, and it's just my life has never been the same and there does seem to be a link, I think, and that's what generated my curiosity with this session between remote viewing and this topic.
Yeah, I'll get you some information in the group then.
Great. One question that I did have, Daz, which may be off, but I'll let you correct me if I am. There are, if you Google, there are pictures on the internet, lots of pictures that appear to be real, but again, they're pictures of what appear to be giants that are 20, 30 feet, large human skulls that look like the size of Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And I know that when we remote view Mars, you have these humongous pyramids that are many, many, many times the size of those found on Earth. I know Joe McMoneagle thought that the Mars aliens ended up in Earth somehow, and I wonder whether you thought there was a connection. If those giants are indeed possibly real, and if there is a relationship between Mars and them.
I've seen similar pictures myself, and being a photographer and a Photoshop expert, most of the ones that I've seen, and it's come up on my Facebook feeds and stuff, the most of the ones I've seen, I can clearly see how they've been photoshopped. So I haven't seen anything myself yet that has convinced me that there were giants. But you know, most of our stories and myths and stuff do have some source in proper physical reality. So we do have stories of giants. So I would assume at some point there were, but I've never been tasked it RV wise, so I don't know about RV wise. And as I said, a lot of the pictures I've seen are fake from my opinion. So anyone else have anything you want to share, or any questions, or should we wrap, because it's been a couple hours, should we wrap that up for today?
I have one more question.
Yep, go for it.
When we started the session, we were talking about the financial situation and the things you could and couldn't discuss. And I understand that there are some very grim things that you can't discuss. But I'm wondering if you have any practical advice that has nothing to do with currency that you could hand over to us for the future.
Just what I tell everyone, really. Without going mad and making yourself one of these doomsday preppers, really do prepare. Get yourself as much food and goods and batteries and torches and anything like that that you would need on a day-to-day basis to survive. And it's not just for this as well. Just everyone should have.
Everyone should have, yes.
Everyone should have a kit like this. And I've had one for years. I mean, to be honest, and we've talked about this in crypto viewing. I've had a feeling for well over a decade that something weird and big was going to happen, and it was on the horizon. So literally years ago, I bought everything I possibly could, and I got like big containers of dry food that last 25 years. And I haven't gone over the top. I've got enough to last 2 or 3 of us several weeks. But I also bought some really good face masks with inserts that go in and out that you could replace, all that kind of stuff. And I also, and this is hard to do in the UK, I also got a gun license and joined a gun club and trained myself into being able to shoot and all that kind of stuff, to be able to protect myself. So I've got all that kind of stuff here. So I've known for a long time that something was developing, and it's best to look after yourself. I mean, all I can say is just prepare and get as much as you can, because when it comes down to it, and if you look at the Katrina situation that happened in America, you can't expect your government to bail out, because you're not what they've got on their mind when it comes down to it in those situations. So all I can say is just stay safe and just get as much as you can to prepare for yourself and the ones you love for 2 to 4 weeks, and store it if you can.
That's useful. Thank you.
Got any spare toilet rolls, Daz?
Wet wipes, toilet rolls.
Yeah, it's like gold dust getting hold of them.
Yeah, it's strange how that went in the UK, because that's, to be honest, that's not what's on my mind right now. And this doesn't all come from remote viewing data. This just comes from me being common sense. Is half the world's locked down at the moment, and a lot of the countries that are locked down are food-producing countries. And I can see us all being locked down for a couple of months, or maybe even more. What worries me is 3 to 4 months, 2 to 4 months time, where is all the food going to come from? In the UK, we don't have the food on the shelves at the moment. Where's the food going to come from in 2 to 4 months? Bearing in mind that, we have half the population of the UK now unemployed for the last 2 weeks. Where's the food going to come from to feed everyone, and how is everyone going to pay for it in 2 to 4 months time? That's what's worrying me at the moment, and I haven't RV'd it or anything, so I don't know what the answer is on this. But some of the RV data we have got as a group does seem to indicate that it might get a little bit hairy out there. But personally, I'm kind of thinking to myself, it's like India. 1.2 billion people in India are locked down. If they're locked down for a couple of months, in a couple of months, they're not going to be wanting to export all our food out to us. Where are we going to get our food? This is what's worrying me. Where am I going to get my food and my supplies in 2 to 3 months' time?
Right.
Daz, I was wondering what your take on like Ed Dames with the kill shot and all of the I've been following Ed just casually since I can remember, like since I was a teen, and with great scrutiny. Like I have a difficult time digesting a lot of his stuff, even though I do respect him. I can't help but feel as if, and I want your take on it. I can't help but think that like this is sort of like what he's been talking about, that it's all sort of happening right now.
But the problem I have with Ed Dames is, and you can go right back to I think 1997 or something, and I've been around that long. I've heard him talk about predictions of all different types. We're talking about everything you could possibly predict is bad's going to happen. He's predicted going back, nearly 30 years. So which one's the accurate one? Like, the pregnant aliens in the desert that were going to infect everyone with viral disease from like 97. That didn't happen. It's just like, you just have to follow the history back, I think, and see how many predictions he's making, how many, we're remote viewers, right? So we're only as good as our track record day by day. If my track record goes down, it means that, don't follow my data. I haven't seen it, in the 30 years I follow Ed Dames, I haven't seen anything he said come true. The people he claims to be looking for, the gold he claims to be looking for, he hasn't found any. He hasn't found any people, no gold, no nothing. And what worries me more is over the years, I get messages, so I get messages from people saying, I just listened to Ed Dames on the radio. I fear if I'm going to die. I give you all my savings if you tell me where my sanctuary is. Tell me where I go sanctuary-wise, and you can have $10,000 and all this kind of stuff. And I get these constantly, and I have had them for years. And this fear porn, and essentially he's just, and he does. He claims to be. If you pay him money, they'll tell you with a sanctuary session remote viewing where the best place for you to go is and stuff. And you've got to pay for that. So I got to be honest, I just think it's just a big fear porn scam that he's been running, and it's been going for decades. I'm sorry, but, and he's not even he was never trained. He did some training. He trained stage 3 in CRV, but he was never trained to be a remote viewer, although he did help out once or twice on a few remote viewing sessions. I don't know, it's the track record speaks for itself. If you go back look at all the stuff he's ever predicted and all the things he's ever said he's ever done or he's looking for on coast to coast radio, I would say I can't validate this unless I did some serious research, but I would say probably a good 90+% of it is all never happened, never come true, and you never find anything. So that's just my opinion though.
No, thank you for that. It's like you specifically and Paul Smith are who I really listen to and go to because of how rational both of you are. I can't think of anyone else besides the two of you that are as rational as the two of you. So, Ed Dames tends to make my eyes roll, while at the same time, I'm here in Los Angeles being like, fuck, I wish I had a sanctuary city right now.
The thing with Ed is, if you make enough predictions, you're going to get one right. And he's made so many, I can't tell you how many he's made. You can have, if you look on old forums, you'll see some of the predictions and you'll be like, he made predictions about some kind of pathogen that came from the stars that was going to wipe out the planet. We're talking in the late 90s and all this kind of stuff. You're thinking, what happened? Where is it? And he's made all these claims on Coast to Coast. How he was going to find gold that was hidden in the mountains, and he was going to share it with Art Bell. They was going to find Steve Fawcett, a famous person that went missing. He never found him, and all this kind of. There's been so much case after case, and I just, as I say, don't listen to me or any other remote viewing. look at our data and what we produce over time, and that tells you if we're accurate or not. If we're getting loads of client testimony saying this person's accurate, he's giving you good data, then have a little bit of credence in that person. You know, follow their track record. As I said, we're only as good as our. It's hard to say, but we're like remote viewers, a bit like performance athletes in a way, and it is like doing a performance. And you're only as good as your last performance. You know, any one of us could have some kind of mental breakdown or just have loads of anxiety, or I mean, literally the situation we're in at the moment with all this coronavirus, that's enough to throw everyone's RV off kilter. Yeah, we're only as good as our last RV, so don't take anything we say with a pinch of salt. You know, always try to validate everything we do. And you know, as I said in the past, from my research over the last 5 years, I'm not actually convinced at this stage in my life that anything I'm doing isn't just pure telepathy of me reading the mind of the person who wants the information. Until I can validate that in another way, I'm not convinced that I'm getting any information from the target in any way. So keep that in mind as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I hear you on that. Do you have, back to extraterrestrials, do you have any sort of sense, if you will, that, let me back up. Last year, an idea was brought to my attention that aliens are really just humans from a different time period or, you know, a different planet. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Only in that, when I did the channeled information stuff, and it's in the book I wrote, and I'm not trying to get everyone to buy the book because I don't really talk about it much, but in the book I did, when I talked to channel kind of non-entities, they went to great depths to tell me and the others in the group that time, and they tried to show us this as well, that time didn't exist for everyone else like we count it on Earth. Time, you know, there is no past, present, and future. Now, it kind of, quantum mechanics kind of shows that as well, and remote viewing kind of shows that to some degree. But yeah, I have no other information on it other than it doesn't look like time exists as we'd like it to, and it can be not manipulated because there is no past, present, and future. There just is, kind of thing. It's very strange. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I can grasp what you're saying. Yeah, you know, big fan of Buddhism, Eckhart Tolle, you know, everything being an illusion. So I understand what you mean.
Based off of that, could we then all experience different outcomes of what is happening now on the planet?
Well, that's a good question. Courtney would say yes, because he has this multi-dimension theory. I don't know if I propose of that. Saying that, no, how can I go into this? No, I won't go into it because I have some examples. No, I can't. I won't go into it. It's too far on the stage. I don't know at this stage. Again, the life forms that I've talked to out of remote viewing all detail multi-dimensions, and when they talked to me on this, they said that Earth and the existence around Earth was like a big, and this is how they described it. They tried to describe it in terms I would understand. So they tried to show me that it was like a big onion with all these multiple layers of things that were going on, and it was multiple realities and multiple dimensions, and they, as non-physicals, could slip in between different realities and dimensions. And sometimes humans can as well under certain circumstances, but not all the time. So all the other life forms, or a lot of the other life forms that I've had interactions with, seem to indicate that there are many different dimensions and many different realities. I haven't seen that so much within remote viewing, but remote viewing for me is a bit more hardcore, just describe the physical target type thing. So I can't validate any of that.
Any thoughts on the white paper that Lynn Buchanan had done with regards to the aliens, saying that I think there were 4 types, one that want to help us, the other ones don't care one way or the other, and I guess the other extreme was those that just want to fight because although we're not very powerful, our abilities can go a lot further. I think there was something to that extent.
only from what I've experienced, and I've experienced some non-physical entities that wanted to harm us as humans, and me particularly, and others I was involved in. They wanted to distract us, and there were some we interacted with which only had the furtherance of our spiritual development on as an agenda. I think, and just looking at the abduction scenario as well. I've read so many books and spoke to so many abductees on that. There seem to be so many different things going on there. Some of the interactions do seem to be very friendly, but some of them, when they forcibly take people and cause them mental damage as well as physical damage, seem to be not to the benefit of us as humans as we would know it, but seem to be more to their benefit. But maybe, it's a controversial way of looking at it, maybe they look at us like the same way we look at our food source and our cows and stuff. We have animals that we just experiment on, we carve up, we eat, we kind of move about as we see fit, because we think that they're inferior to us as human beings. I think that some of these aliens see us in the same way. We're inferior to them as beings, and they just see us as things that they can carve up, they can experiment on, they can move about as they wish.
So it also makes me think back to the war in heaven that I think is mentioned in the Bible, which I think Lynn Buchanan in his book, The Seventh Sense, when he mentioned his experience being abducted, I think he was told that there was a war taking place, and he was willing to sign up until he wanted to bring his family, and that was the deal breaker, apparently.
I've had some good experiences and bad experiences with these non-physicals, and I guess that you could call it some kind of war or conflict. Some don't want us to achieve what we can achieve, and some do. And I think it's like the whole universe is in a state of, and it's like the yin yang symbol.
Right.
I think the whole universe works like that, where it's always on a state of where it's trying to achieve a perfect balance, and sometimes the universe slips in a certain direction of darkness or light. We're in a little bit of a darkness situation at the moment. So it's a constant struggle between good and bad, light and dark, in all things in the universe.
Thank you for that.
Rick, did you get the message?
Yes, I did, Russell. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Daz, would you mind if I read just like 2 Ingo quotes? Remember from when you told me about those Fate magazine articles?
Yeah, no, go for it. This is a place to share. Help yourself.
Okay, I just think it's worthwhile at least to hear what his opinion is, and then anybody else can make up their mind. Okay, so this is what Ingo says in Fate magazine, 1993 and 1995. He wrote 2 articles. This one, I believe, comes from his from their special abduction feature. So this is what Ingo says here. He says, "We Earthlings have surrounded this dreadful activity with cultural avoidance, scientific skepticism, giggles, argumentation, divisive speculation among UFO researchers, wholesale media debunking, and apparently with deliberate government disinformation. There is nothing wholesome about ET activity or about our confused response to it." So then he says, "It is possible to deduce that the reason psychic research, such as you're talking about when you mentioned the dangers of a potential 10-year program if you had the funding, says it is possible to deduce that the reason psychic research is resisted and debunked in our societies may originate with them and not us." One more. The ETs would stand, and this is where actually I derive my hope in this scenario as I perceive it. The ETs would stand completely revealed before human psychic penetration measures. They know this, but the evidence suggests that they work to keep humans from developing psychic penetration powers. And this was very similar to what Lynn Buchanan said when whoever it was brought up the 4 categories. Lynn said, he realized then they don't have the range. They have to get into some sort of physical or psychic proximity to do their harm, whereas we as humans can see across the universe. And then he backs it up by saying, the reason they don't want us out there, as he put it, is because we will be able to expose and dismantle some of their manipulation and control architecture. And now this is the final one from Ingo. Come on, people, we are being kidnapped and genetically farmed. And the next abductees may be you or your children. We need to penetrate the ET scenario before it is too late. This is no longer a matter of parapsychologists, debunkers, skeptics, scientists, media, slapstick, and so on. We need to go to work psychically, no matter who we are. End quote.
Hey, Russell, if I could add to that real quick. You know, I've done a lot of digging in old books, and if you go back to the 1800s, it's amazing how many major institutions, you know, Ivy League schools, dealt with metaphysics. And there was almost like a switch that was shifted as soon as we entered the 1900s, where all of a sudden it all became part of the giggle factor, as Lynn called it. But there are a lot of books, and there's a website where you can look for some of these older books on different types of ESP, if you want to label it as such, or psychic abilities. Now that is just, you know, if you say that, you're pretty much laughed out of the room.
Yeah, if you, Ingo elaborates that on his two books, Secrets of Power, Volume 1 and Volume 2. He talks about disconnecting us from some of our earlier definitions, that whole cultural change where these things were available, but suddenly have become less available. So Secrets of Power, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And one thing I wanted to say, Daz, as a matter of thank you, when Ingo talks about going to work psychically to penetrate their scenario, you know, you have done decades of work. Even if we may disagree with Courtney has contributed. You look at the Project 8200 that Skip Atwater initiated. You look at Hal Puthoff. Think about this. I talked to Hal, and he has been at this since 1969, wanting to expose these beings and at least their scandal in regards to Earth. I'm not saying that there aren't great ones out there and we don't have access, but what seems to be going on around Earth is a bad neighborhood type scenario. So your work, Courtney's work, Daz's work, Pat Price's work, Ingo's work, all of these people, if you really look at it, remote viewing has done more damage or more exposing of this scenario or this possible scenario than any other thing. UFO guys have been arguing for 50 years and still are, but you look at what finally broke through and made this credible. It was Hal Puthoff driving to the Stars Academy. And when I talked with Hal, I asked him some very candid questions. And the papers that were handed to him by Pat Price in '73 and other factors in his life, that guy's in his 80s and he's going to his last breath trying to bring these negative aspects of this out into the light for all of us. So I think, I don't know what I would know if it hadn't been for you and the other pioneers who have used your psychic abilities, remote viewing, what have you, to expose the ET scenario. And I take Ingo's words to heart on that very seriously. So thank you for all the contributions you've made, this forum and other things.
Here.
It's a scary scenario. I mean, you know, as I have had some interesting, really nice dialogues with these beings. But, you know, from all my research into abductees and stuff, you know, I wouldn't want to go for an abduction scenario, you know, be abducted from my house, be mentally taken to another kind of spaceship or form, having some kind of physical exam, having sperm taken from me, and then months later being retaken to meet some kind of alien hybrid baby of mine and theirs, and, you know, to try to familiarize myself with it, and then have more samples taken, and the thought that my children and my grandchildren would all be going through the same kind of situation, that's just, that's horrendous. That's the way some of us in a bad way on the planet treat some animals, and I just wouldn't want to see that happen to anyone or anything. It's a shocking scenario.
Not for now. Maybe another topic or a discussion. I can tell you is, sorry, hold on. I can tell you as someone who went through that from a very early age, starting probably 3 or 4, as far as my direct memory goes.
Yeah. On a good side, though,
it leaves you upset. It leaves you intense. And part of my gratefulness for all the people who have approached this is because that no longer scares me. It no longer affects me. But it's a shitstorm, and it can really make things difficult for an individual.
Absolutely, a lot of the adoptees are living with what we would class as PTSD. It's horrendous. I don't know why people would go out and want this kind of thing to happen. But
Exactly.
I was trying to, on a good side, some of the conversations I did have did detail that the reason we are being used in this way by some of them, because they're not all doing it, but the reason we are being used in this way is because within human beings themselves, we have something special that they don't have. And I think it might be this creative, intuitive ability that allows us, if we really believe in it and we really put our mind and heart and soul into it, we can achieve and do anything we want with the human kind of consciousness. And it's just something that they don't have. They've kind of accidentally bred out of themselves at some level, and that's why we're so special to them and why we're doing it. So on the good side, we do have something there that allows us to do anything that we ever want to accomplish.
Do you consider CE5 remote viewing?
No. For me, remote viewing is very specific. It's you can do anything intuitively, but it's got to be within the 5 or 6 protocols of being organized with. Yeah.
Is it a bad idea?
Well, I wouldn't. Well, I mean, I used to do it. Not in remote viewing. I used to do the channeling stuff and just put myself out there and meet all kinds of stuff. But I class myself as a person that was quite well versed in what I was doing. I was well taught before I did all that, so I knew what I was doing. I knew how to protect myself. I felt like I was strong enough to cope with that kind of stuff, and I was well versed with all my research into because I still have a vast library of books on esoteric practices and UFO stuff. I was involved in exorcism. I helped perform exorcisms and all kinds of stuff over the years. So I felt safe in doing it. But there are a lot of people out there, they shouldn't do that. And there are a lot of people out there that shouldn't be trained in remote viewing. I'm very specific who I mentor in remote viewing. And if it's someone that doesn't feel like they have a sound enough mind, or they have their expectations in the wrong place, I will not teach them in any way at all. And I don't think that's the case across all trainers. Not everyone, and I've said this many times, not everyone is eligible to be trained in remote viewing. Some people aren't solid enough in their state of mind. And there have been some cases in the Stargate unit and out of it, in the general larger remote viewing community, of people that have kind of lost it a bit and been damaged by taking up alien stuff and remote viewing practices.
Does consciousness have any limitations? Really?
Only what we individually put upon ourselves, I think.
Daz, do you still have electronium?
I do, yeah. I have 17,000 electronium.
Sweet. Just chiming in. I'm from Denver, Colorado. Peter Quill.
Hi there. Yeah, I don't know what the price is today. It's not doing too good at the moment. I always thought that sometime in the future, electronium might do well, because I like the ethos behind it. I like the fact that they're going for giving people a way to accrue and use money on mobile devices when they don't have a bank account, so the third world type countries. How are they? They were in the top 100. I bet they've.
Yeah, I think so. They're still in the top 100. Yeah, all the cryptos are on chill mode right now. I'm sure it won't be for a while until we see some good movements, maybe end of April. I did see the AOL you posted on Patreon, which I loved. Hopefully we see those numbers.
Yeah. I mean, you know, my investments and I'm not like the rest of the guys on the team. They want on the crypto viewing team. They expect it to happen soon. I don't think cryptos are going to be big for another
6 months.
No, another 5 to 12 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because you know I bought many. Like I bought Bitcoin, and to be honest, I think Bitcoin is the player, and that's the one to go for. And I'm quite a technical person, but even I find it hard at times to buy cryptocurrencies. It's a hard, very technical, very IT process. It's not like a normal person can say, I've got $100, I want to instantly convert that to Bitcoin or Electroneum. It's just not doable. And until we in a one-click process, it's not going to go global.
Yeah, it'll take some time for sure, but definitely this event might help us transition that way. We'll see.
It might, and all the ones I've invested in, other than Bitcoin, are just shots in the dark. I think I can't see any reason why anyone would go for anything other than
Bitcoin.
Yeah, because it owns so much of the market.
I mean, I definitely got some Veritasium, and I know you've heard plenty of that.
Yeah, I've got about 14, and it's some of the ones I've been buying, and they're just playing with. But I did a remote viewing session looking at April. I did it in March, so it's just been released, and I had a symbol for triangles for something that I felt was going to move up in April. So I had a look today at the top 20. And I think the one it matches logo wise is Monero, and I think Monero is going to have a massive month in April, and it's already up.
XMR.
It's up like 5% over the last couple of days. I think that's the one it matches is Monero, and I think Monero is going to have big moves in April.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a pretty big one on the privacy sector for sure.
Dick today posted a video where he showed some of his works with crypto, and he had a chart where cryptos went down, and then in 2020 you can see a big peak of them rising.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I also support you at your at Patreon, but I couldn't find that chart. Is it in the video, The Death of the Dollar, or you don't know? You don't know, maybe because
I don't know which chart. If it's a recent video, it may be one we've just done, because we literally, me and Dick both have roughly the same charts for looking at April. I'll show you mine. March.
The thing is it by the end of the year, or is it? If
it's the same chart as what I'm talking about now, it literally is for the next 30 days.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So bear with me a sec while I try to find it here. So I had a chart. So this here was just talking about general markets, and I felt the world markets were going to go massively down in April.
Okay.
But there's some sketches. This is additional data trying to show me. I couldn't work out what this was, but loads of red, in my vision, it was just loads of red bar charts downwards, showing a downwards trend of markets in April. And I couldn't work out what that was about. But crypto, I had a bounce, and I see a movement like this in April. And I think this is Bitcoin. I don't know, but it felt like Bitcoin. But the thing is, everything else generally follows the Bitcoin market. So if Bitcoin goes up, the rest of the market goes up. If Bitcoin goes down, the rest of the market goes down.
Yes.
So I got a feeling that Bitcoin or the markets is in April is going to have a big drop, a sudden drop, and then it's going to have this instant bounce, a really big bounce, which is going to cause a V-shape, a really strong V-shaped movement in the charts. And I had this AOL that it might reach 11K, which is a bit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know because it's only at 6.9 tonight. So if it's that chart, that's what he was talking about.
No. It was something else. It was something else. I have to.
It might have been some of our other stuff from looking over the next. Yeah, over the next 6 months.
It was a chart like with years, and then also went down, and then completely.
I'm not sure on that one. Then bear in mind that it's really hard to.
Yeah, I know.
To remember all this because we do, we're putting out so much stuff. It's just like after a while, for me, it just I do one and I move on to the next project. It just all melds into one. I'm afraid.
But this drop that you're talking about from April is going to happen, or are we?
That was my March prediction for news that was going to happen in April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which we.
Daz, do you own any metals, gold, silver?
I don't know. I'm not a cash rich person. I've only got enough money literally to survive on, and that's thankfully from the very kind people that support us through Patreon. If I didn't have those people at the moment, I would be I don't know what I'd be doing actually. Yeah.
Right on, definitely. I'm definitely a Patreon subscriber here. I love what you guys do there for sure. So
we'd love to.
I'm not unsubscribing anytime soon. I definitely love to hear what you guys got to say every month.
Excellent. Thanks for the support. We're not 100% accurate. We're just trying our best, and it's everything we're doing is experimental. No one's ever tried a long-term project trying to predict news, trying to predict cryptos, trying to predict markets. So it's all experimental. We're only trying to do our best really and help everyone as we go.
We do appreciate it. So you've never invested in any silver, gold in your life?
I would love to. I just don't have any available cash. It's taken me a year to get 3/4 of a Bitcoin. Yeah. I just don't have that available cash on a day-to-day. If I would, and I told everyone 3 years ago, or everyone like knew close to me, by gold's going to go up, and it went up continuously for a long time. I just didn't have the money to invest myself.
Yeah, it's hard to find nowadays too. I'm trying to find any silver at the shops over here, and here in Colorado, we haven't found any like in the last 2 weeks. So I'm trying to decide whether to go either crypto, silver, because I do have a little bit of cash. They still are making us work over here, so thank God we're still working over here. And
well,
I do construction, so we're called essential, but we're not really essential. We're just building offices over here for ghost people, because obviously nobody's working at the office over here, so we're building offices for ghost people right now. It's kind of strange going downtown and seeing nobody, and we're the only ones doing work.
It's the same here, yeah. All I can offer you is that from a kind of a preppery type kind of atmosphere and a way of life, it's good to have a little bit of gold and silver, especially in coins or something small you can move around, because if everything does crash, then you do have something of value that you can trade. Saying that, Dick had loads of silver, and he recently just relocated, as you may have known. And he couldn't, because he relocated fast, he couldn't actually take any of his physical things like silver with him, so it became a bit of a noose around his neck in the end, and he couldn't use it. So bear that in mind.
I bet that stressed him out, not knowing what was going to happen with his precious metals.
Yeah, I think because he knew he couldn't, because he moved from one country to another, and it had a physical weight to it. He couldn't take it with him, so he had to cash it all in. So in the end, there's years of hoarding that silver for an emergency situation didn't work in the emergency situation that happened.
I got to meet Dick and Ed at the Vegas convention, Dick's Weird Party.
Excellent,
they were both pretty nice.
It's a shame I missed that. I had a couple of family deaths that so I couldn't go. But hopefully if we can get rid of this virus and stuff, we'll do some more of those in the future, and I'll make my way to the US again.
Yeah, that would be nice to get to meet you, man. They were both pretty cool people.
Yeah.
But Daz, may I ask you, because you said you're a designer, right? Or you do graphic stuff, or
Yeah. I've been a
is
designer
your
since.
main work, and remote viewing is something like a side thing for you?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, sorry. Like you're a web designer,
Yes.
or you do designs with and remote viewing. You just did on the side, or
It started out that way, and I've been a designer since I was 17, so it's like 30 odd years.
Okay.
But we're at a stage of technology now that, and it's the same with a lot of industries really. Technology is changing in such a way that it's eaten into a lot of industries, and there isn't a lot of work there anymore. And it's the same with design. People don't want to spend, 10 years ago, I could build a website for someone and it would cost them $5,000 to $10,000 or pounds. Nowadays, people want a website and they just want an off-the-shelf solution that they can get done for $500. And so in design, there's not a lot of money nowadays. So yeah, I've tried to over the last couple of years, and I was reluctant to do it for 20 years. And as Rick and some of the other people will tell you, I was reluctant to ever try to make any money from remote viewing in any way. But I ended up having to do that to survive.
No, the thing is, because I know some viewers from Germany, and they get a lot of remote viewing things to view, and they earn good money with it. I mean, I guess you should be in the same position, no? But
I make it, with the help of the kind people like the guy that's talking to us and the patrons and stuff like yourself. I make enough.
And
so
what I want to say is, I mean, you can do a living out of remote viewing.
You can,
of
but
course.
it's not for everyone. And I would say that people that want to aspire to doing it, it is a lot of hard work. The amount of projects, because I not only remote viewing projects, I actually run projects for remote viewers as well. And some of the viewers are on here. Carl, if she's still here, she's one of our paid remote viewers as well, and she produces some fantastic work for us. But running projects and participating in doing remote viewing virtually every single day, it's not for everyone. It really is a drain on you as a person. I know some people think, it's not like you're working out in the streets and all that kind of stuff, but mentally, it is a lot of work, especially when you're running projects. I have the utmost respect for anyone that does any remote viewing project work as a project manager, because you do 10 times the work that any remote viewer has to do, because not only do you have to organize and admin, say 10 remote viewers in the project, you then get 10 or 20 remote viewing sessions back that you have to analyze. You then have to put in a report. You get the report to the people you want it. You have to pay the remote viewers. There's so much work involved. It's literally 10 times what a remote viewer does. A remote viewer might spend half an hour to an hour on it. You as a project manager, you might have to spend 40 hours on one project.
Okay.
It's believe me, it's a lot of work.
I believe you.
A lot of people aspire to it, and I don't want to put them off. Yeah, go for it if it's your dream to be a full-time paid remote viewer. But at the same time, it's not all roses. But there again, there are worse jobs, and it's not really. I don't see it as a job for me. It's a love. It's something that I felt I was born to do. Is remote viewing.
Yeah. Cool.
But it would be nice if, I got to be honest, it would be nice if it paid more. But there again, as I've said to people in the past, if I was too comfortable, maybe I wouldn't even bother remote viewing anymore.
Really? No, I don't think so.
I'm glad you still are doing it.
I've said to people before, if I won the lottery, if I won 100 million on the lottery or something stupid like that, would I do any remote viewing? I don't think I would. I'd probably, bear in mind we can't travel the world at the moment, I would probably buy a big house and just travel the world and never pick up remote viewing ever again. But maybe that's my destiny. My destiny is not to win 100 million; it's to be a remote viewer.
Well, you can find it out with remote viewing.
Yeah, please don't become a millionaire. Please don't
Yeah.
become a millionaire.
I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and throughout my entire remote viewing career, because the person that helped me start in 1997 by giving me free training in remote viewing because I was unemployed and I didn't have any money. I've had this ethos that as far as and as much as possible as I can within remote viewing, I try to give as much away free as I possibly can. And, you know, I'm even training, I mentor, I don't like use the word training, I use the word mentoring. I'm mentoring 2 people at the moment. I do 2 people a year. And one of the people I'm actually doing at the moment, instead of charging him, I'm actually giving him the free training. For it.
Wow.
You're too good, Daz. You're too good, man.
You have to give what's given you. I think, you know, someone gave me free training, so I owe it karma wise. I owe it back to the universe.
I do like the training targets you put out on Facebook every month. I definitely do those.
Excellent.
They are good help, especially from someone that we can trust to give us a good target number instead of just some random person out in the internet. So I know you've had a lot of fights with people on there about putting target numbers, but I do get it about not putting out numbers just in the wild.
Yeah. A lot about good remote viewing is about trusting the people that's giving you targets and who you work with. I find in the past that if I'm doing targets from someone that I don't know and I don't trust, the RV data is instantly nowhere near as good as someone that you build a rapport with, that you know that they're going to give you a good target and they're not going to send you on some stupid escapade to look at really stupid non-existent
Yeah.
stuff.
The thing is, when you do remote viewing, it's because you have to be blind. Because I was always interested in this mapping things of remote viewing to find something. And I live here in Austria, and we have a history with all the Nazis in the mountains and this stuff, and they hide gold and all this stuff.
Yeah.
This would be a very interesting project, in my opinion, to find something.
Yeah.
And also maybe go with a cam and do a documentary and put it out on Netflix. Look, there are people, they're psychic, and they find gold in them or whatever. You know, this is.
Yeah.
I think like this, you could prove to the world that this exists.
Absolutely. Well, if you want to do a project like that, you know, the Facebook page is a great place to start with.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you also have to pay the viewers. I completely understand that you have to finance this. Nobody has time. Just
Absolutely,
like,
yeah. I mean, you know, you could do it on a contract basis, and I've done this with some people, treasure hunting ones, whereas, you know, you do the remote viewing for them, and you sign a contract that if they end up finding anything based on your evidence, then they give you a percentage of what's eventually found. I mean,
okay.
you know, one of the things I think would be an amazing project would be to look for the missing amber room. I don't know if you ever heard of the amber room.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
Because that's hidden in that area somewhere, and no one's ever
Exactly.
found it.
Yeah, where is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and today it would be worth hundreds of millions.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
That'd be
This
fantastic.
would be very interesting project. Yeah, maybe.
One thing I have noticed about remote viewing is that you really can't find that much information about it in the other languages besides English. I definitely try to look for stuff in Spanish, and there's nothing really out there in Spanish for remote viewing. So English is really the only language that I can find most information about remote viewing, which is a little strange.
There's a big German community. You know, there's hundreds or thousands of remote viewers coming out of Germany at the moment with a big business there that are hiring. I think they claim to have 1,000 remote viewers working weekly targets.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
Germany's doing really well. We don't know what's happening in China, of course, because, you know, everything's secretive there, or Russia. That's fairly secretive. So who knows? But, you know, we have a community here, the English or the global community is meant to be, you know, I think I tried to add up the figures from this once from all the trainers, you know, and it was coming out at like 150,000 people that have been trained in remote viewing. But when you look on the boards and the forums and stuff, there's probably about 50 to 100 active remote viewers in the world, I would say, that we know about. So it's not a lot.
because you just mentioned the Russians, what do you think, to come back to this alien theme, what do the Russians know about all this? They work together with the Americans, or they work against each other?
I think there is this like global pact for some reason at some level where no one will discuss it in public, because they know what's happening, but they won't discuss it. But the Russians had, they've had just as many incidents as the rest of the world. I don't know if you've ever seen the stuff, the Phobos probe type thing, where something came up from the planet and destroyed the Phobos probe that the Russians sent there, and they took pictures of this UFO craft coming up from the planet Phobos.
Maybe I saw it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Isn't Phobos Mars moon? The moon in Mars?
Yes, it is. Yes, they said the Russians sent a probe to the moon Phobos, and as the probe got in orbit, it was taking pictures, and it took 2 pictures of something, and the pictures are out there on the internet, and it looks like the object's actually coming up from the surface of Mars or from the planet, and then the probe was lost. But the top scientists that came from Russia actually, and you can probably get this on YouTube, they actually talked about how it definitely happened, and they captured some kind of UFO craft that came up from the surface and destroyed their probe. So that was one interesting. And there are remote viewings of that as well that confirms that data as well that I've seen on the internet. Yeah. So the Russians have had encounters.
Mm-hmm. And
Phobos also looks like the Death Star.
Yeah, that's true. It's also very interesting that these objects, sometimes you see them with atomic crafts. Why are they there? I mean, what are they doing? They watch our technology, and I don't know.
That's the big question, isn't it? That's what we all want to know.
Crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think we should stop this now because it's been nearly 3 hours.
Exactly.
But if you guys want, we can always do another one next week or something. As we're in lockdown anyway, we can have a chat about something else.
I would be down. Yeah, this is great. Connecting to all kinds of people all over the world. This is great, Daz. Thanks for this.
It's great. It's great to put all these faces together, and speak to each other on the Facebook group as well. And if you need any remote viewers, Carl's there with her cat. She's usually for hire as a great remote viewer as well. She does some great work. So reach out to each other, and through this kind of forum and stuff. And put some posts on the Facebook thing if you want to talk about anything specific next week, or you want some examples or some videos or something. We can find something.
Do one thing though, Daz. Check your link, because a lot of people are reporting it's not working, and I've tried everything to get to it.
Is that for the YouTube thing?
No, it is. Hold on one second. Let me see how you put it. It's the one where you had the graphic remote viewing Area 51, and it's
okay.
So you try the link. So like 7 or 8 people have put that they can't find it.
Yeah. It is just on it's on my YouTube channel as well, so you can just get to it direct from that on the Remote View YouTube channel. But I'll check the link. I think it's because the internet in the UK at the moment is really spotty, and that's where my server is because of this coronavirus.
Okay, so on your YouTube, the one called the raw files, that's on there?
Yes. Okay,
yeah, I don't think the direct link's working, but I'll go to YouTube then. Thank you.
It's on my. I uploaded it to the YouTube channel this afternoon. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll check the links after we finish this and see if I can repost it somewhere else as well, just as a backup.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. Well, you guys have a good weekend, and as I said, put some comments on Facebook on what you want to talk about next week, and we'll arrange another one for next Friday and see what everyone wants to talk about.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk football next time. Go Wolverhampton.
Thanks so much, Daz. That was really interesting.
Yeah, it's good to see you again.
Bye from Colorado.
Good night.
Yeah, take care, guys. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you soon.
You too. Bye.
Okay, good night.
Good night, everyone.